Hello! Welcome back to Chewed Gum. We are here with Erika, and I'm so excited about it. How are you doing?
Man, I'm excited to be here. I'm doing well. How are you? Sorry I had like a surly look on my face. I was watching in the YouTube tab and I was like, when the music started to fade, I was like, that's weird, but there's still 17 seconds. It's fine. My brain's just a little slow today. It's all good.
It's fine. It's fine. I was looking at the comment from The Line Has a Podcast. It was a little closer. And someone in one of the comments said, Alyssa's high as fuck, LOL. And I was like, I was exhausted. I wish I was so interesting that I was high as fuck. I was sleepy, purely sleepy. And that's just the way that it is. We're chugging along.
You're like, girl, that's the sleep deprivation. I get that it's a good look on me, but come on.
No, I know. I'm like, I know that I'm giving like dreamy, sexy eyes in this moment. And what it is I'm exhausted, actually.
Yeah.
I'm so tired.
But we get that longing look. Longing, interested. Yes. I just want to be asleep. I took a nap today. It's been a long time since I've taken a nap, but this afternoon I was like, I'm white because I just got back from over the weekend. For my mom's birthday, we did like a celebration for her, so we went out west and hung out in Arizona for the weekend, which a great weekend to hang out in Arizona. It was absolutely boiling hot. It was still really fun. But I got back and it was like, it shouldn't be that bad. It's just a few hours time difference, but man, my circadian rhythm was thrown out of whack. I must be getting old. It's like, oh my God.
White. In general, my body, she's not bouncing back. And it's just one thing about me, I'm not bouncing back. It's like if I'm having a glass of wine, I'm feeling it tomorrow. I have tried to make a better habit of like walking on the treadmill every day. So every morning I've been walking on the treadmill, Erika, for 30 minutes. My calves, I feel it in my calves.
Yeah.
30 minutes. I'm walking. I was like, this is horrible. This is horrible news. Horrible news for the 31-year-olds in the room.
Oh, it's just I'm looking down the barrel at 30. I'm turned 30 this next year. And so it's like, you know, my husband's 31. And so it's like, he's already got like some aches and pains. And he's like, I'm telling you, man, like you hit 30, it's like getting hit with a sledgehammer. And I'm like, no, don't tell me that. I'm going to be built different. I'm telling myself I'm going to be built different. But it's like the alcohol already knocks me on my ass in ways that it didn't used to before. My sister's, what's my sister? I think she's like 23. And so she was telling me the other day, she was like, man, she was like, I was like hungover until like noon yesterday. And I was like, enjoy it while you can. Don't be complaining. Right. Enjoy it while you can. Because though that starts stretching longer and longer, and before you know it, you take a whole day to recover.
You never forget your first 2-day hangover. That's happened before.
Oh,
I see in the comments that there's a lot of people in the comments that are like, just wait till you're 40, it doesn't get better. I'm like, shit.
No, don't tell us that. That number will never reach us.
No. At that point, put me in the closest that you can to like a little chamber and wheel me around. And that's it. No one touch me. I have a strict 8 p.m. bedtime. And I'm not getting out of bed. I might be awake, but I'm not getting out of bed before 9. It's not going to happen.
There's something about like your late 20s, early 30s where it's, and maybe I'm like a lame person or whatever, but it's like, you know, people are like talking, like I remember being in college and I remember being like, the night starts at 11. And it's like, I think about the night starting at 11 and I'm like, oh my God, like I want to have my tea. I want to have a book. I want to be, or I can go to the movies late, but that's because going to the movies late is easy. Like you're just laying in a recliner and watching a flick, you know, which is fine.
Right.
But my God, like hitting the bars at 11, starting at 11 could not
what
be
is
me
the reason? What is the reason? I want to be on my way home at 11. What is the reason? If you invite me to something that starts at 11, I'm not going.
I've really become a big fan too of like the adult like drinking around a fire pit, or like having some wine and watching a scary movie, or like hanging out with your friends outside and grilling. Like those are the ideas of like, those are the contexts in which I want to be drinking in. It's like I don't want to be surrounded by strangers. I can't club anymore, you guys. Like I'm sorry, I can't do it. It's too loud.
You don't want no, that's not fun for you.
I'll listen to my club music while I'm like driving down the highway and just reminiscing about being, 20 and how wonderful it was to be in the club then. And those days are behind me. And God bless the people who are out there clubbing at 30, clubbing at 35, clubbing at 40. Mm-hmm. You guys are truly built different than me, and more power to you. It's just, it's a little beyond my capabilities at this point.
100%, me too. The crazy thing is that this like Gen Z trend of Y2K means that the music that we were listening to in the club is the music that they are listening to in the club. It's like the most bizarre experience. I'm like, why are we listening to Tipsy by Jaquan right now? I'm not mad, but who put this on?
I hear my students, and they talk about, this was last semester, but they talk about like Y2K, and to them, to some of them, the less informed, I believe, Y2K encompasses like 85 to 2005, and I'm like, no, that is not Y2K. I'm really sorry. No. Don't lump us all together. Come on now, give the devil our due here. It's brutal, On the bright side is, I do love being like sort of jump scared by like 2000s music out of nowhere. I love when that happens. And I'm like, oh man, like who's got the aux? Like who's playing this bop? And then it's like, no, that the kids are kind of listening to it ironically, but I like to imagine it's sincere too.
I think it is sincere, and because that music was really good. So I think that they're just, I don't know, they're showing appreciation, which is nice, because I think that doesn't happen very often in such a short time span. But usually, sometimes I feel like it usually takes a longer period of time. But I have one friend who is 25. She's turning 25 in like a couple of weeks, and she is like Y2K queen. And sometimes I see her and I'm like, ain't no way you're wearing an outfit that I wore in middle school, out and about at 25 years old in the year 2025. What are we doing? Capris? No.
I saw a pair of Miss Me jeans in the wild the other day, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, where did you find those? I'll never forget the feeling of sitting down and the bedazzles just like, it's like getting buckshot on your butt cheeks. It's brutal. Absolutely. For those of you who don't know, the uninformed in the audience, Miss Me jeans were like these jeans that had these bedazzled pockets in the back, like the ass part was kind of bedazzled, but some of those jewels were like quarter size, and so when you'd sit, there's no cushioning, so it's just like right in your butt cheek. Hurts like crazy. Wore them all through high school. And some
hurts like crazy. Wore them all through high school.
Yeah, did it. What we do for beauty. Beauty.
Yeah, and we loved it. So we have some calls that are lined up and ready to go. Okay. And also I didn't even like give the whole spiel because we got right into a really fun conversation. Please call in. You can call 720-619-2288. And there's also a web link in the description if that's what you prefer. As a reminder, super chats of $5 or more will be read at the end of the show. And that's it. That's my spiel. We have 2 theists who are ready to go. So we prioritize them. So let's see what Daniel would like to share with us today. Daniel, you are live.
Hi, Erika. Hi, Alyssa. How are you guys today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
I'm doing well myself.
Great. What did you want to discuss with us today?
Well, I've seen that the title, something to regards of why females don't need God. Obviously, I'm not a female, so I guess I can't speak upon that, but I am human, so I believe we all need God. I'll try to do my best to, I don't know, see what your guys' side of the story is versus my side, and then maybe we'll have a good conversation. I know I'm not as smart as Erika and probably not as smart as Alyssa, so we'll go from there.
Oh, please. Flattery will get you nowhere, Daniel, but also you guys were fortunate enough to hear me talk about things that I do know a lot about. I am dumb on many, many, many things, as are most people. So
that's the real tea. If you asked me to do something like, sometimes I think about like this is like so stupid and I can't believe I'm bringing this up. Sometimes I think about like a FAFSA form, which is like the student aid form when you're going to college. If you paid me $500 to be able to fill out that form again, I don't think I could do it. So, we all have our strengths. What are you going to do?
We do. It's absolutely true. The trick is find ways to talk about what you're interested in and what you find what you're passionate about. And then, you end up having a lot to say. So,
yeah. Yeah.
Definite. I do see that, or kind of had an idea. I've talked to Alyssa a few times. My phone always hangs up on her, and I know she has history. Yeah.
Wait, I'm so excited that the call has stayed connected. This is great because
I know
we've picked up and then it's like disconnected. Yeah. Okay. Good. I'm glad you called back.
Yeah. I know Alyssa has a history of Catholicism. I believe, Erika, you have some Christianity background too. I don't know if you both. I know Alyssa said there's something about her deconstructing. I don't know about you, Erika, if you've kind of went full deconstruction mode.
I mean, I think it's a process. I think it's a journey. The label that I give myself is I consider myself to be an agnostic just because I love science. And to me, if science can't investigate it, you can't really know it, at least with any, I guess, empirical certainty, which is fine. That doesn't mean those questions aren't important to ask, right? But it's like some people consider that to be, agnostic atheism or atheism generally. That's fine. I don't really care what anybody calls me as long as they know where I'm coming from. So as long as you got a handle on that, that's good. I was raised in a Christian background. Specifically, I went to a young Earth creationist middle school, but it was really non-denominational, generally speaking. But my folks had sort of divergent denominations in general, regardless. So I had a sort of double exposure, if that helps.
Yeah, I kind of understand that from, being, coming from that background of the young Earth creationist stuff, and then kind of seeing some of your stuff on YouTube. I kind of understand where the dilemma is. I myself I'm not young Earth creationist. I can't hold to that theory or anything like that.
Already like it, Daniel. I already like to hear that. You're winning me over as we speak.
Off to a great start.
Yeah, we're off to a great start. I'll tell you though, I get asked this a lot by people who email me or, leave comments on the channel sometimes. I think that people have made arguments as to why, evolution or science supports or, denies the existence of a god or gods. To me, it's entirely removed from that question. I mean, it can weigh into it. For instance, we can use archaeology to see if like events in the Bible actually happened, or we can use science to see whether or not any part can be taken literally. But outside of that, I tend to think that they're quite removed. So from my reasoning has very little to do with evolution or science. It's a lot more of like your standard boilerplate problem of evil, divine hiddenness stuff that tends to get to me, religion wise, if that helps.
Okay. Yeah. So I get that, I honestly, I come from, just last 3 years actually being a theist. I would probably was more agnostic, leaning more that way than atheist, prior to that, but kind of dove into Christianity and just found some good evidence of, what I find to be the truth. And if that's, it sounds like you guys want to know truth too, so.
Yeah, I'd love to know what evidence you found.
Okay, well, I mean, like, I can't go anything outside of, like, Bible and stuff because obviously, that's what we kind of know from history is, like, what did the people during that time write down,
I guess
Right.
so. Here's kind of what I'm thinking, because this is Chewed Gum, right? So this is a show that sort of uplifts the perspective of women, and
Hmm.
many other folks as well. But like because that's the topic, right? I'm kind of interested because like we have the tagline of this episode, and you're sort of coming at it
Hmm.
from this perspective of women need God because people in general need God. But
Hmm.
I have a little bit of a hard time with that because historically speaking, and Christianity is not the only religion that has done this, but religion has not been overly kind to women. Or at least some religions, including I would argue
Right,
versions of Christianity, have not been kind to women. So how would you
right.
pitch this to two? How are you pitching this to two women? You're sort of selling this to us. You're saying, hey, actually, I'm right
Right.
here. This is why you should believe me, and this is why actually it's good for you.
Hmm.
Tell us, let us in on that a little bit.
Well, as you guys would probably understand, as a Christian person, I know a human just like you and me, we're all fallible people. Now, you're pretty much saying, I don't believe in God because humans, the fallibility of humankind caused you to not believe in God. So that kind of, for me, that's the pushback would be, why would you push back on a created being, a creator being, because of its creation that is sinful in nature?
I don't
Well,
know.
I don't.
You go ahead.
I don't.
Alyssa. You go.
I don't believe it has. I don't think it really has much to do with human beings. The reason why I don't believe, I don't believe because I don't think that there is any evidence to believe. Like, I don't think that miracles happen. I don't think that if you
Mm-hmm.
pray, you'll get a better result. I don't think that there is like a person who is listening and watching all the time to like oversee all of his little sims. Like, I don't believe any of that to be true. And it's because I have no evidence to believe that it would be. So without the evidence to prove that to me, the Bible is no different than any other fictional book.
Right. So let's go with the premise of, is what we learn from historical Jesus to be true. He was a teacher in Israel. He was crucified under Roman law, and that even atheists would agree to be true. But if you take that and... Okay, go ahead.
I just want to say, you're not gonna. I know that there's a variety of perspectives here on the line, but like, just so you know where I'm coming from, I don't have a problem with the historical Jesus at all. And there's a lot of what Jesus the person, Jesus the preacher says that's good. That I wish we had at the forefront here in this country. I wish the people who say they follow this guy took a lot of what he said to heart and actually put that forward. I think a lot of people would be better off. But those, we sort of have to divorce these two things from one another, right? This idea of the historicity of Jesus, that's one conversation, and the divinity of Jesus is another, right? And I'll speak for myself. I don't have an issue with the historicity part. It's the divinity part that I question, right?
No, I
Alyssa,
get it.
you got
So
any
I'm
thoughts
just
on that?
kind.
I don't know that I know that there's even some debate on if he even existed as just a regular guy as well. But I don't also, in that circumstance, I don't really like care either way. Like, similarly, I care about the divinity aspect of it. Him existing as a historical figure doesn't really mean much to me in terms of like adding value to if there is a God.
Well, as you guys would know with a Christian background, if Jesus was a person who walked, right, and he claimed to be God, and all the historical writings that we know that positively shows that he was alive, teaching, and was crucified, are the same historical documents that would also claim his divinity.
Did
So
Jesus
that
claim to
in
be God?
itself, huh?
Did
Yes.
Jesus claim to be God?
Yes, plenty of times.
How do we know that?
Just different writings in the Bible. You would just have to take those same writings to heart, as these
I don't know
followers
that that's
of Jesus
true.
would write. Well, that's on you guys,
Hold on.
and
But
I
I
can't
also, but if the only information that we have about Jesus existing as a historical figure is the Bible, then I also don't have full confidence in that either. My
Right.
whole point is that I don't believe that the Bible is any more true than Harry Potter is. Like, to me, they hold the
Okay.
same level of like truth, because they're both,
Okay.
to me, they are both just books.
I'll add
Right.
that,
So,
as a quick note here, Daniel, just to throw this in, just to make sure we're on the same page. It looks like, I'm not a biblical scholar and I'm not going to pretend that I am, but, very quick dipping my toe into the research here seems to suggest that New Testament scholars disagree on whether or not the original texts actually have Jesus as claiming that he was God. It looks like in the Synoptic Gospels, he doesn't. So I guess the Synoptic Gospels would be Matthew, Mark, and Luke, so excluding John, which if memory serves, was put to paper later, I think. But if that's the case, don't you think it's a little weird that there's 4 Gospels and only one of them, and it's the whatever least trustworthy, again, on a cursory search here, that's the only one where he actually claims to be God, when that's kind of like the whole point in Christianity is that here God becomes flesh and he comes and he dies on the cross for the sins of humanity. It's like, you'd think that would be more front and center.
well, it's not going to be just like front and center, because they're trying to tell you this story of him, teaching his disciples, and all of them all the time just saying, I don't know if I believe this guy to be what they would say the Messiah is. So that was kind of the whole premises of it. The reason why he dies on a cross, because not because the Romans want to kill him, is just because he wants to be crucified by the high priest and things like that.
Don't you think it would be in each gospel once at least? Like, in your opinion, because speaking as somebody who's outside of this, right? If someone comes to me and they tell me that they've got this extraordinary claim, right, about this guy who's claiming to be now the second coming of Jesus Christ, and they come and they've got these 4 books, and they're like, these 4 books tell this person's story from 4 different perspectives, and he's the Son of God. And I would say, well, how do you know? And it's like, well, he says it once in one of the books. My next question is, like, doesn't that make you kind of think like that it's weird that he didn't do it in all of them?
In different parts of each one of the books, there's going to be different types of claims of his deity.
But do you feel
reading of it?
Do you feel like the Bible is a perfect book? Like, I would imagine that if there is a God and he were to create a text that is going to lead his people to heaven, to eternal life, he would encourage that book to be as close to perfect as possible. And so when things like this happen, it just feels like it's furthering the point of, like, I don't really trust this guy. I don't think that he exists. I don't think that he oversaw this project, this performance art, like, because that's what it feels like to me. I don't, like, wouldn't you as God make the book as airtight as possible? Meanwhile, we have 40,000 plus denominations of Christianity, and we have interpretations that range from being accepting of all kinds of people to ones that are extremely hateful. So I don't know. It's hard for me to use the Bible as a source, because it just feels so wildly imperfect and, like, blatantly contradictory over and over again.
Well, to Alyssa's point, right? Like, it's not, the Bible isn't the only, and Christianity isn't the only religion and book that are sort of victim to this, right? There are a million different perspectives within Islam. There are a million different perspectives within Judaism or within Hinduism or within Buddhism, right? And that's just removing the probably tens of thousands of other religions that exist out there in the world, many of which have characters or people throughout their history who have claimed to be divine, right? And they have histories of people who claim to be divine in various other religions, right? So, what is it about? What is it about the New Testament or about the Christian Bible in particular that sets it apart?
Okay, so it would be about probably the followers of Jesus right afterwards, right? So you're kind of going a lot of different questions in this thing. Let's kind of try to get every little bits and pieces of it. So reliability of the Gospels is pretty high as far as you have a lot of older writings that are still manuscripts that kind of really fit the mold of what's been said back then. So where you want to go with is basically the earliest writings to the time. So arguably they would be as early as within 40 years of his death. Some people argue for even earlier times. So if we're talking about, is this a made-up fictional thing, like what you would say Harry Potter is, okay? Harry Potter was made to be fictional. Bible, especially the Gospels, was made to take down eyewitness accounts. So if you take it as like an eyewitness account...
It doesn't matter, though, if the people who were involved thought it was true or not, right? Well, I mean, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say it doesn't matter. Just because people at the time believe something is true and something happened doesn't mean it did, right? I mean, there are this is a crude example, right? How do you know if
anything happens? Are you just going to just say, okay, Julius Caesar wasn't? You would need multiple...
more accounts than the ones that are in the Bible. Like, there are even the accounts in the Bible, even being written 40 years later. Like, if you've ever played telephone, you know that from one person to another, the story is going to change. 40 years is not, like, that is arguably a generation in difference. And they waited 40 years to write this down.
You're talking about two people who were direct disciples of Jesus wrote these books. Then you take the next ones that are like Mark. Mark was written by Peter's disciple. And then you look at Luke. Luke was written by Paul's disciple. So then
that's the other thing too, that these are booked there. So some of these are not even written by the eyewitness. They're written by other people, which like also lessens the credibility of them.
You guys gonna allow me to have some time here, or is this gonna be like this the whole time?
I'm asking a question.
I can hear a lot of I get it. So let's go through these questions. Let's go one at a time. Let's try to knock them out. Let's try to talk about this, right? Have a discussion. So if these people, they're writing it within the lifetimes of many other people who witnessed this stuff, they can say, okay, yeah, you didn't get that right. Why are you writing that like that, or XYZ? So if you look at Luke took it in as more of a historical way of writing this thing down. So he wrote it down. He said, I'm going to take all the accounts of everybody. So, and again, going back to the chewing gum thing. So if you go over and you look at, there are a lot of things in like those Gospels that are like very, you wouldn't take at that time of the century or whatever, a woman's account. And the women were the ones who found the empty tomb. If they were lying or they wanted to make up a fictitious story, they would have made it the guys, hey, we're the strong guys. But it was actually the guys that were hiding and cowering when this happened. The women find the empty tomb. There's also a lot of push and uplifting of Mary, because Mary would be the only one that says, hey, I didn't get knocked up by anybody. I gave birth miraculously, So that would be where Luke and or Matthew got that story from, would be directly from Jesus's mother. So I'm trying to, encourage this elevation for chewing gum too. But there's a lot of things, like you just kind of like really took it in. You'd probably see and say, oh, okay, there are some good evidences here of why I should believe one thing over another because of how they wrote it down as far as eyewitnesses.
Well, Daniel, I'll say that this channel has multiple shows every single week, hosted by many people who are ex-evangelical, who have read the Bible cover to cover tens, if not hundreds of times. And
more than I have.
Have conversations with theists every single week, multiple times a week for well over a year. I'm not sure how long we've been doing this channel as call-in shows.
I'm not a theist.
And you are a theist because you believe in God.
No. Well, I mean, like a scholarly theist or anything like that. I mean,
a theist just means you believe that there is a God. But my point is, we have
you guys just want to push back and say, no, I don't believe it's Harry Potter, and then go.
Okay. I don't like that you keep talking over me and then telling me that it's like rude that I'm talking. It's literally our show. And so if you want it to be a conversation, you have to also allow us to talk. And also, it's our show, so we get to talk more than you if we want to. Jeez Louise. My point is, we've done hundreds of shows. Hundreds. And we have theists who call in and try to say that, well, if you read the Bible, you would see evidence. And that has yet to have been proven. So I think that that's just kind of a lazy take on your behalf. I would prefer that you call back with actual evidence in some way, shape, or form, because there are people who are hosts on this channel that have read the Bible back and front over and over again, and as a result are atheists, like literally because they read it backwards and front.
So I think too, right? Like it's interesting. I felt a little bit, and I know Daniel was trying to give sort of like, here's a bunch of different things that he feels supports the divinity of Christ, right? Like the resurrection as an event. Then he throws out a bunch of different things, and I thought that was odd because it was like, I thought we were taking this one at a time. But to go back, right? The first thing that he said was that the books have high fidelity, that the earliest books that are put to paper are very similar to the books we have now. You can actually say that about a lot of ancient manuscripts that we have through time, like in slices through time, hundreds of years apart. They're not identical, neither are the Gospels, but they're very, very similar. And that's because these texts were important. No one on this show is saying that the Bible is not an important text. It has a massive historical significance. What we're asking for is support for the divinity of Jesus, right? For the resurrection itself. Not that Jesus, I mean, I'll guess again, I'll speak for myself. I'm not asking for any evidence that Jesus was a real person. I buy that. I'm fine with that, right? I even buy that a lot of the people who knew Jesus also thought he was divine, at least as presented, in the Bible, insofar as you can take that. And I believe that there are people that this was interpreted by the Romans, a cult that was rising up, and it was attempted to be, they were attempting to sort of stamp it out because it was a threat to Roman rule. There's a lot of history there that's important, and that is worth talking about. But none of that is what the question is. The question is whether or not the resurrection happened and that Christianity is the correct religion to the exclusion of every other religion and to the exclusion of irreligion, right? That's the conversation that we're trying to have. So you can tell me that it's cool that, the women were the ones, and I appreciate that sticking with chewed gum, although I will note that it's like, I don't love that the women being the ones to spot Jesus. It feels kind of like God's just throwing us a bone. Like, why aren't there any female apostles, for instance? Or why didn't they have these larger, or weren't they elevated to more positions if he's going to be speaking on the elevation of women? I feel like, go whole hog or don't bother. Anyways, that's my 2 cents on it. I would prefer it. I'm okay just for the sake of argument saying Jesus is a real person. Let's go with it. But I want to talk about the divinity thing. How do you know that he was actually resurrected?
Okay, Daniel, I'm going to unmute you now.
So, what's that?
Okay, sorry? You're unmuted now. I just unmuted you. Were you talking that whole time? Muted.
He was talking the whole time.
No, I was just kind of saying a few things here and there.
Our producer said that you were talking the whole time.
Oh my God.
Did you hear anything that we said?
Not to.
Daniel, did you hear what we said?
I'm trying to give you guys, your show and stuff. I'm sorry if I've been, overly doing some things and things like that. But what would be something that would be like your definitive Jesus is God would help you out?
I don't know. Because here's the thing, Daniel. I don't care. Like,
Right.
I don't care. I'm not looking for a reason
Right.
to believe. Like, it doesn't add value to my life at all. So, like, I
Right.
can't even tell you. It would have to be something where it's true. And, like, and at this point, I don't
Right.
think that you've given us that evidence. And you're welcome to call back at some point if you feel like you have more firm ground on that. But
I think
Sure.
an intense personal spiritual experience would probably at least push me in that direction. I mean, I can't get in my own head, but if I walked downstairs tomorrow and, poured my milk and my coffee and the bubbles was like a message from God to me, and this happened every single day, and we were
Right.
communicating through the surface of my coffee, like, yeah,
But
that's pretty hard to
again,
explain away with coincidence. But you see what I'm saying, right? Like, that's not something that's happened. And I will add to steal, I mean, this isn't my argument. Divine hiddenness is like a classic argument, but it's like if the goal is to win as many people over as possible, we should be having more surface of your coffee level conversations with the God of the universe, I think.
yeah.
What's that mean? Surface level conversation with God of the universe?
So I made a joke that it's like I might have a message from God in the bubbles of my coffee, right? So I'm thinking to myself, if God wants to save as many souls as possible, directly reaching out to people is the easiest and best way to do it. And yet there are people who exist out there who are trying very, very hard to find evidence for God or to reach God or to have God hear them. People in various levels of immense suffering across the face of the planet who just can't seem to get through. So it's like, that strikes me as odd.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a tough thing. We all kind of live in this fallible world that, things happen to, the best of us, and, it's kind of a shitty thing, and it sucks, but,
I know. I almost wish that we had an overseeing, powerful person who could change the outcomes of these terrible events.
I mean, for me, it would look very different if there were, right? Like, you asked me what would convince me. The world itself seems structured in a way that's pretty antithetical to somebody who's in charge and orchestrating and directing things. I mean, it's chaos and suffering and compassion and loveliness all around, and in no rhyme or reason, right? That doesn't seem to me like somebody is sort of keeping tabs on everything. So I don't know. I mean,
I don't know what, the thought process is like, hey, if it's a loving creator, it has to, be, doing everything for me when I need it. Or, if I have a prayer like a genie in a bottle, I'm going to rub it and it's going to magically happen for me.
It's not even that.
Not what the deal
It's not even that
is.
for me, right? It's the cryptic nature of the relationships it stands now, right? Like, it's you could explain so much of this away if God just weren't so divinely hidden from so many people, right? Like, you could argue that it's like, oh, you have to reach out, but if you reach out, he'll answer. But there are people who I've met who are like, I try reaching out and nobody answers, and maybe that's a personal failing of them, or maybe the Calvinists are right and God exists and picks and chooses who he wants. But that doesn't strike me as omnibenevolent, to be honest.
No,
So
I wouldn't take that position either.
The Triomni God is a bugaboo for me, in addition to everything.
Yeah.
And I come at it from a different perspective as well, because it's like, as I said earlier on the show, like I love science. I love being able to show things empirically. When I read the Bible, it's very reminiscent of many, many other very, very human texts. I mean, it's chock full of people waging war on each other in the name of God, which I don't think you can just pick anything in the Old Testament where the Israelites are waging war against Canaan or the Ammonites or the Hittites or whatever. And God's like, hey, wipe them out, don't leave anything alive. That sounds to me like something that if I were a bloodthirsty warlord in the Middle East in, 6,000 years ago or 5,000 years ago or whatever, if I wanted to rally my group because those guys have something that I want, and I'm like, hey, we need to go, massacre these people. And everybody's like, that sounds like something that we shouldn't do. That sounds pretty bad. The way that I'm going to convince them pretty easily is if I tell them that the God of the universe told me to do it. Right? I mean, this is human behavior. You see it all the time. It doesn't it doesn't track with the character that then shows up with the New Testament either, where God is far more benevolent and loving and blessed are the meek. Like, I don't know. There's so much of it that strikes me as so human. And I find that hard to reconcile with the tri-omni characteristics that Christians often impose on God.
Right. Well, just kind of remember, it's not like the Bible was written by God again. Kind of, I don't know if that's how you were trying to explain it to me, one of you two. And, you know, this infallible thing that needs to be infallible, but it's written by fallible people that are inspired by the Spirit of God. Things
But how do you know which
often
is
happen
which?
in the Old Testament that are pretty horrific things. But
Daniel, how do you know which is which? How do you know what's human mistakes and what's God inspired and divine?
I believe it's all inspiredly divine, and I couldn't say one or the other, but you know, I do follow Jesus, and like you would say earlier, if more people just follow the words of Jesus, we'd probably be in a better place. Now, we don't want to be, you know, humans and try to take the words of Jesus and twist them, and then it becomes, like you say, like we're using this to wage wars and do bad stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that my read on this, I'll give my read and then back off. My read on this is that you are very sure that you're right on this, and that's totally chill. Everybody's allowed to have their own perspectives. But I don't think that you came at it I don't think you came to that conclusion in a way that's going to convince other people, right? Like, your argument strikes me as very vibes based. It's like, hey, you know, this Jesus guy was pretty cool. He said a lot of good stuff, and I would really like for this to be true. Like, part of why I think that is because in places of this conversation, there's horrific stuff that's human influenced and full of human mistakes in the Bible, and in other places it's spiritual and divinely inspired. In some ways, the problem of evil is something that is surmountable, and in other places it's completely incomprehensible. And so it's like those things to me strike me as and I could be wrong on this. I'm judging you as somebody who's never met you. But it reminds me of people who I've known who are like, this sounds awesome, and afterlife sounds great. Being reunited with the ones I love sounds sick, and the idea of forgiveness for all is ideal. So whatever I need to do to make that so is worth it. But that's just not how, like, Alyssa and I'll speak for Alyssa here too on this one. I don't think that's convincing to us, right? Like, I don't want to believe something because it sounds like it's great. I want to believe something because it's great and it's true, right?
Right.
So
And
I don't know. Like, I get where you're coming from, but I don't find it convincing. Back to you, Alyssa.
Right. And oh, go ahead, Alyssa.
I agree, and we have some other theists who are also waiting.
Perfect.
So I want to make sure that we get to them as well. But I think call back if you find like, maybe listen back to the call too, if that's helpful, and see if there's anything that pops up for you where you feel like you have an argument that you want to really share with us, because the burden of proof is always kind of on the person who calls. But
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, we'll be happy to take your call another time.
Alrighty. It's great talking to you guys. You have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Daniel.
You too, Daniel.
All right,
bye. Okay. I like that you said that it was vibes based. It feels like you're doing this vibes based.
The reason, I like that as a way of putting it, because I find myself doing that sometimes. Like, when I'm arguing with people in my life about casual, like, benign stuff, I'll be making a vibes-based argument, and it's like, we all do it, but like, I don't know if you can do it with stuff with this level of gravity attached. At least I wouldn't want to.
Yeah. We have some other theists. We also have someone who called and has like a very Erika question, and I feel like it'll be relatively quick. So maybe we'll take that one too. So we get a break from the theists, but I want to read our schedule for the next couple of days. So what's today? Today's the 24th. Okay, tomorrow we have the hang up with Matt Dillahunty. On the 26th, we have TACIS with Josie and Ben. And on 27, 28, 29. And then we have the Sunday show with Forrest and John Gleason. Exciting. All good stuff. Love it.
After dark.
What did I say? Did I not say it, or did I say it wrong?
No, you didn't. You didn't call out after dark.
You missed
I think
After
it's cut
Dark.
off.
Alyssa, how could you miss After Dark?
I think it's cut off. Do I see it? Is it there? Am I?
You know, for those of you who watch, when we hosts make mistakes, we get taken out back, and they throw Ryan
And we get-
at us.
The Sunday show is Matt Dillahunty and Seth Andrews, and the After Dark show is Forrest Valkai and John Gleason.
Oh, okay. I see it. This calendar literally always eludes me. I've
Is it
never
the
read the
one where
calendar
it's, like,
right.
on opposite sides. I've done that too.
Yes.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yes. It's so confusing to me, and it's like we all have our strengths, Daniel. Mine, not reading the schedule. Not a strength.
Here,
of
how
mine.
about this?
And that's
It's just like we have a show almost every day. Come to this channel almost every day, and there's gonna be
Literally.
a show for you.
There's gonna be something.
There's going to be something where, I think whoever, I don't know who compiles the mini videos too, but someone out there is compiling videos. I always look very pensive. I know that they're putting them together, because I always look very pensive in the thumbnails, but put together these nice little compilations of specific, like, highlighted conversations. You can check those out too if you're just hankering for more content. And I believe The Line also has a podcast, some have said.
I've heard that. I have
I've
heard that once or twice, just thrown around. Okay, we have someone named Gabe who called for like a very Erika question, so we need Erika to have her moment. So I'm pulling
Let's
Gabe
go.
in. Hi, Gabe.
Hi, Alyssa. Hi, Gibbon.
What's up, Gabe?
Hello.
I want more questions. Tell me about your question more.
Yes, I've been arguing with creationists as well. I wanted to ask, what is the difference between a transitional form, a transitional species, and a transitional fossil? Because I'm having problems explaining it to creationists.
Phenomenal question. So when we talk about transitional species, they're not something that exist objectively outside of a context, right? Because everything is transitional. Life is always changing. Life is always evolving. Populations are always responding to pressures. So if you want to be pedantic about it, everything is a transitional species. Every organism is a transitional organism. But when we talk about transitional species, especially with relation to paleontology or with relation to creationism and paleontology, usually what we're talking about is a species that occupies a midway point between a proposed ancestor and a proposed descendant. So if birds evolved from more basal dinosaurs, then a transitional species would be an organism, a species, a population that has characteristics of the former and the latter and occupies some vague midway point. But you can also pick transitional species for given specific characteristics, right? So I could look at humans, like hominin evolution, and I could say, okay, the perfect transitional species for brain case size, so the hominin that occupies the perfect midway point between some, generic Miocene ape and modern humans, would be something like Homo ergaster, or maybe Homo rudolfensis, or maybe Homo habilis, like something in between 500 and 800 cc brain case size, something that's in the middle. But those guys aren't necessarily the perfect transitional species for like bipedalism, because Lucy's species, the Australopiths, who were before those guys, walked bipedally already. So you would have a different transitional species for a different character, depending on the character in question. Now, transitional fossil is usually a specific fossil with a specific ID and accession number that you can point to and say, this fossil is representative of a transitional species. So Lucy is a transitional fossil. Her species, Australopithecus afarensis, is a transitional species, right? There's usually specific transitional fossils. Transitional species are represented by many transitional fossils. Does that make sense?
Yes. Is it fair to say that transitional forms and transitional species are synonyms, or no?
I think that you could. The only reason I would say, I think you could also argue, though, that there's like transitional genera out there. So like at the genus level, there's like a genus that represents, a transition between some proposed ancestor and some proposed descendant. And in that case, because it's a genus, it's not a transitional species, but I think you could still argue that the sort of archetype of that species is a transitional form. So I think form is just your really generic category. Species refers to populations and species, and a fossil refers to one individual specimen in question.
Okay. One of the creationists said that if humans cannot be a transitional species because we don't know what they're going to evolve into, would that be correct for him to say something like that? Because I told him that
no,
evolution never stops.
Yeah, it would be incorrect because evolution never stops. And we don't have a proposed descendant, right? So like, remember how I was saying earlier that in order to classify something as a transitional species, you need to have a proposed ancestor and a proposed descendant. And those outline the basal or primitive characteristics and the modern or derived characteristics. Something can't be transitional if you don't know what the final form is, if you don't know what it's transitioning into. You see what I mean? So humans are a transitional species in that we're changing like everything else on the planet. But in the sense that creationists tend to use it, it's not going to work because we don't know where we're going to end up. We could go extinct within the next 100,000 years, or we could be a spacefaring race within 2 million years and look completely different. In which case, Homo sapiens would be a transitional species with specific characteristics as long as you outlined your ancestor and descendant. The real key when you're talking to creationists and when you're talking about transitional species is you want to say, here's the primitive state, here's the modern state. Here's how the transitional species blends the former and the latter, and sort of acquires characteristics over time. Because it isn't just that it's like a smudge, like a midge. It's not like a smudge or what would be the word I'm looking for? Like a smattering, like a smudge of the two characters, like a perfect blend. It's also that the descendants maintain some of the characters of the ancestor. Right, so humans evolved from basal apes, but we're still apes. We still have all the characteristics that define an ape. But we also have derived characteristics that make us human. The name of the game with evolution is its further specification. You can kind of think of it as things are getting more specific all the time. And so because they're getting more specific, they're going to maintain some of the characteristics that categorize them in larger taxonomic groups or broader taxonomic groups, but then they're going to acquire more specific characteristics because that's all evolution is it's changing allelic frequencies and populations over time. Given a long enough time, you're going to acquire some new characteristics and you're going to basically be classified as something more specific than you were previously.
Okay. Also, in our phylogenetic tree, is it correct to say that we come from old world monkeys?
Yes, it not only do we come from old world monkeys, but we are still old world monkeys. So the term for an old world monkey is a catarrhine, right? It just means downward nostril, and our nostrils point down instead of to the side, like platyrrhines or New World monkeys, things like capuchin monkeys or howler monkeys or spider monkeys. Their little nostrils are out to the side, and they also have a third premolar that we don't have. Catarrhines, on the other hand, have two premolars and our nostrils point down. So the ancestor of all catarrhines was a catarrhine, and then everything that descended from that is also still a catarrhine. It just gains these new, more specific characteristics, like you might be one of the specific old world monkeys, like a cercopithecoid, or you might be a hominoid, which is like an ape, or what have you.
Okay. One more question. Do you have any literature I can read that would explain the evolution of sex? Because I sometimes get creationists asking me about how do we come from asexual to sexual. And I don't know where I would be able to look.
The evolution of sex. Sex specifically. I'm trying to think if I have any books that you could read on sex specifically. There's a really nice book that's like an introduction to the evolution of the female reproductive system from basal mammals called Eve that I just finished by, who was it by? By Kat Bohannon, which is quite nice. But if you're arguing with people who are having trouble with like humans emerging from other apes, honestly, dude, you want to just go with a really basic textbook on human evolution. The textbook that I recommend to most people is Processes in Human Evolution by Ayala and Silakandi. But there's actually a cheaper and shorter book that I've been recommending lately, right here, called Essentials of Physical Anthropology. It's got these little indriids on the cover, and it's not too big. It's like, I don't know if you can see it. It's not too big. It's got a bunch of like lovely little colored pictures in there, and I'm just knocking shit over in my house. Anyways, it covers a whole lot of the basics of not just human evolution, but evolution generally, and it teaches it from the perspective of like what you would learn in an intro to bioanth class. So, in a perfect world, you would buy that, and then you would also get Processes in Human Evolution by Ayala and Silakandi. You'd smash them together, and then you would verbally smash, but not in a sexy, in a violent way, all of your friends who are being creationists about this.
Okay. Thank you very much, Alyssa. Thank you very much, Gutsick, Gibbon. Have a good
Thanks,
show.
Gabe.
Thank you for answering
I
my
hope
question.
that was helpful. Take care.
Very much helpful. Thank you.
Oh, I love when you science rant.
You know,
I love it.
I
It wasn't even a rant. That was like, it was like 4 minutes. Like, it wasn't even a rant. But it was just like,
I've been working on trimming it because I know I can go on for so long. So I've been working on truncating it a little bit so that it's a bit more digestible to people. I'm working on this chapter right now for a text that is going to come out, I think in December. I'm not sure, but it's like part of the book is quite concise, and so because it's concise, I have to be concise. And it's been a real lesson. I'm telling you, dude, I've been sitting there revising the same single paragraph because I'm like, this isn't enough. There's not enough information. And I emailed the editor and I'm like, can it be longer? And they're like, no, it can't. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll figure out a way around it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because when I rant, right, like I go into like a fugue state. I just come into under a trance of ecstasy as I get to talk about the thing that I like to talk about so much. So I'm glad that other people can put up with it.
it's like, no, it's amazing to watch, especially because I have like literally no background on any of this. So hearing someone who like you love it so much, obviously, and know so much, like to hear it just be so like second nature for you to just be able to explain these things. It's just like I could watch that all day. I feel like I have like
that is so
it's like
nice.
heart eye emojis, and I'm like.
But there's so much, like, I know there as equal as many conversations that we could have where that would be me at what you're saying, because there's so many areas that I don't know that I love to learn more about it, but I also love forcing people to find the things that I like interesting. So it delights me when people like to listen to what I have to say, because I'm like, I think it's cool. And by the end of it, you're going to think it's cool too. So help me, you know?
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's so great. Okay, we have 2 more theists. We'll see if we can get to both, but we will definitely take another. Okay, let's take they both came in like almost at the same time.
I know, I see that too.
Do you have a preference of the 2?
I don't know. There's more information on 4 or 6. I'm not sure how it's going up for you. But I mean, this is very similar. These are very similar questions, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
It's up to you. You're the host. You have to make the decision. The prime host.
Okay. Let's take Oriel. He's been waiting a little longer, so we'll take him first. Hi, Oriel. Am I saying your name right?
All right. Yep, that's correct. That's me.
Okay, awesome. Hi, you're live. You wanted to talk about why everyone needs God, women included, and we would love to know.
So hello, Erika, Alyssa, it's nice to meet you. I'd like to first start off by stating, by stating that I grew up an atheist until I was approximately like 17. I grew up in like a religious household, but I questioned everything and I had so many questions and I couldn't really answer it. I came to belief later on, so I just wanted to kind of put that out there first. But I also kind of wanted to ask, like, why the separation between man and woman and needing God? Like, what is, men and women, I kind of view them as pretty similar people with, different strengths, but, we're different in some ways, but we're ultimately, I feel like, the same. So I just kind of feel like, what's the need for the separation?
Well, this
you
show...
mean, like, the title?
Yeah, do you mean, like, because the title is Women Don't Need God?
Yeah, because, like, why would a woman not need God, but a man would, or vice versa?
This particular show, we focus mostly on, like, women-related conversations. So that's why it came up that's why that title is what it is for this specific show. But, Erika, what is that?
I was just thinking, like, what if that's what we meant? Like, what if we came on and we were like, only men need God, women alone don't need God, Men do,
Honestly,
we don't. That's the position. Like, what if
the
that was
state of
actually
men-
your argument?
With the state of men in the world right now, I kind of do think that if anyone's gonna need them, it might be the men. I don't know. It's who knows.
Oriel, I'm joking about what she said, but that's just because it tickles me a little bit. I just think it's like a funny concept. It's not anything you said. I just think it was a funny idea. The way it was phrased was just kind of funny. We generally have like titles on most of the live streams on this channel in the same way that most live streams in general do titles, which is kind of clickbaity. The idea is that more people will call if you have something that's like kind of interesting or challenging or controversial, and then the conversations themselves happen as normal. They don't have the sort of hyperbolic aspects to them. So we're not saying that women don't need God, but men do, and we're not saying that women specifically have something about them that they're so separate from men that they don't need God in like a very specific way. Although I think you could perhaps make that argument for under specific circumstances. More, this is a YouTube channel about skepticism, right? And so really what we're asking for is, why should women, but why should anybody believe in God? That's the idea.
I got you. So I guess going from there, I'm sorry, I don't really watch this particular
That's okay.
channel or this particular podcast on the line, but so I can see where you're coming from with like the specification on women. I would like to just note that like I'm kind of an unorthodox theist. I believe in in one God, kind of like Zoroastrianism, but like there is multiple kind of organizing patterns or energies in the universe that are really powerful. That wouldn't be as powerful as like the God. I'd also like to know, like in ancient Egypt, Gnostic Christianity, like a lot of indigenous cultures, early Taoism and early Greek religion, that women were viewed equal as men, or at least close to equal as men. Like in Gnostic Christianity, they had female pastors and stuff like that. And I would, if I had to put a label on myself, I'd probably call myself a Gnostic Christian. But the reason I think that's gone away is because of obviously the patriarchy, whatever you want to say, or the privatization of knowledge, the subjugation of women, so that we can control them and kind of have energies we want that don't want to deal with, so they can handle those things, controlling sexual sovereignty, and especially the suppression of wisdom. So I feel women carry a sort of wisdom that men don't always have access to, or like a more subtle, sensitive type of knowledge to them. So I just feel like that was kind of why that's so suppressed throughout mankind. And even in the Gospel of Mary, it's a book that's removed from the Bible. Mary was kind of viewed by Yeshua. I call Jesus Yeshua, his Hebrew name. And so Yeshua viewed Mary as kind of like his ideal disciple. Like the other disciples are kind of getting jealous because he would treat her differently. And I think that's just another important note to, not all religion is completely just the subjugation of women.
I think that is a very thoughtful position to have. I'm appreciative that there are people out there who have that perspective, especially people who identify as Christians, because, unfortunately, there are many people who do identify as Christians who don't think that way. So, I'm glad that your perspective is out there. And, your point is well meant, that there are religions out there, and there have been religions historically that have treated women quite well. Especially moving backwards to more hunter-gatherer-esque types of setups, where it's just actually very hard to subjugate one sex over the other because everybody's all sharing resources. Things are thought to have been generally quite a bit more egalitarian, at least in most senses. That doesn't mean they weren't violent. That just means they were more egalitarian amongst themselves. So all of those points are well met, and I like them. I think the question is, for me, right, it kind of turns over to, okay, so now you've got this sort of Gnostic Christianity, you've got this theistic perspective. What compels you about that? Like, what compels you about your perspective to take that position as opposed to one that is irreligious?
So I come from similar ground, right? I was atheist for a long time growing up, and I kind of feel like, I'm not trying to be egotistical, but from my peers, I've always thought a lot deeper about things, and even my parents and everything, I had eventually questions very early on that couldn't be answered for me. So evolution, Big Bang, all that, yada, yada, science, love it. I'm totally on board with it. Nothing against it. But I was at the same point, I need proof, right? I can't, if there's nothing for me to grab onto, then I'm not going to just blindly follow it. So that was my issue. I was speaking to a lot of people who have blind faith, and I've not met very few people who don't have anything other than blind faith, right? I believe because I believe. For me, it's more, I believe because of personal experience. I know atheists hate that, right? Because my experience can't be your experience. But I came through that through meditation, and the reason I did is because when I was studying for psychology, I was looking at case studies for one of my projects, and I stumbled across like meditation as a discipline, but like measuring brainwaves in relation to it. And there was some really interesting data as far as how the brain worked in individuals who practice severe meditation as a habitual habit. And so I kind of just got interested in that, and I started doing it more and more. And that's how I had my own personal experiences of things beyond the physical dimension, metaphysics, string theory. And when I got into that field of I'm sorry?
No, I was concurring. I was saying yes.
Got you. When I got into that field of like personal knowing, I know we have string theory that kind of relatively discusses those things, but I don't think that the things I was experiencing really were explained. And so I started kind of doing that more, and I had more revelations and more experiences of those hyperdimensional spaces. And I started to realize that science doesn't really have all the answers. And I started to connect with ancient philosophers, metaphysicians from the past, like really old philosophers. Probably the earliest one that I like to learn from is Manly P. Hall, about 100 years ago. He died not that long ago, but
can I insert a question really quick here, if that's okay?
Yeah.
Is there a reason why science not having all the answers led to there must be something theistic or divine that is holding that space for you?
Well, I knew that science didn't have all the answers before that. That's not why, yes. I believe.
Okay. So it was sort of like science didn't have all the answers, and then you had an experience that was like, oh, that fits quite nicely into these answers that science didn't have for me. Is that fair enough?
Correct, yeah. It just kind of filled those empty spaces perfectly. Like, perfectly. Like, it doesn't have any sort of contradiction with everything that I know. It just completely fit into it.
Gotcha. Okay, continue.
And so basically what I started to do was research or read these books, mostly Manly P. Hall. He's my favorite author for sure. I'd highly recommend if you guys are ever curious about that. If you guys like to read. But Manly P. Palmer Hall. He's just really good at he's a 33rd degree Freemason, but he talks about Christ as like the ultimate, Holy Trinity of God.
Oh my goodness.
But still he breaks down essentially. Yeah, I apologize. But so he breaks down things really simply, and that's what I really liked about it. He'll take, really complex things and kind of make it into like a bite-sized thing that I could digest a lot better. And the things that I learned from there, I started with The Secret Teaching of All Ages. It's about 500 pages long, but I learned a lot of interesting things from there. And so basically how I view God through this lens is like science, physics, philosophy, metaphysics, mathematics, music, art, religion, and ultimately personal experience. That's kind of how I got to God. And I also like to ask, like, how would you guys even define God, right? Because a lot of us have different definitions of him. Some of us are talking about lower deities, some of us are talking about like the source of creation.
So, okay, so I have some thoughts, but I've been giving my thoughts a lot. Alyssa, do you want to go first here?
My thing is always, I'm never trying to convince another person not to believe the thing that they want to believe. Like, if this is a space for you that you feel like you found truth in it, then that's great. When we have these conversations, I'm always looking for someone to give me any sort of that truth that can be given to others. Like, we were talking earlier today about how if a god wants to be known, why wouldn't he just show himself? Why must you meditate and enter a different brain state to be able to have that experience? Why do you need someone like Manly P. Hall to take really complex ideas? Why are there really complex ideas that have to be boiled down? Like, the purpose of the Bible and the purpose of God is supposed to be, hypothetically, for everyone. I mean, also, you were talking about not the Bible specific God, but the purpose of God is to be for everyone. So why is it so complicated and so hard to be able to have people get on board and have an understanding of what godliness is? I never understand why that would be designed that way.
So that's a good point. I would kind of bring that down to free will. Ultimately, I think if we have to define God, we would define him as an infinite structure that is ineffable beyond reason, beyond formatting, beyond you can't put it into language of any way. You just kind of have to experience it. And I feel like if that type of entity were to just show up in front of you, right? I feel like that would be negating your own free will. It would be stopping you from being able to make decisions that would. You have the ability to not believe in him. He gives you that right. And sorry, I'm not being able to articulate this too well, but essentially free will would not be allowed to take place if he just existed completely wholly in front of us. I mean, he's like, if you had to actually view him, he'd be like this. So if you know, you stare in the sun and it's bright. So he is basically like the sun of suns. Like he is beyond light. Like he is so overwhelmingly powerful that to experience him in his fullness, like you wouldn't really even, you would just kind of evaporate. Like you wouldn't, that's why we have to like meditate and evolve towards him so that we can build chambers and structures within ourselves that can withstand his energy because it's so powerful. Like in the desert with the, what's it called? I like the Bible. I don't use it as a method of convincing anyone because I feel like if you don't believe in God to begin with, the Bible's no help. But there's the Ark of the Covenant is what it's called. And it's an allegory basically for God. And if you were to go into that Ark of the Covenant, if you're not a enlightened priest, you would just basically light on fire and just be killed immediately. So basically that's
it's like Indiana Jones, right? Like it's like what is it? Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? They open it up and then
exactly.
they are vaporized because of the presence of God.
And I'm being energy or that infinite wisdom.
Yeah, I'm being cheeky, but like that's actually, I mean, that comes from Old Testament
you're right.
stories where you can't stand in the presence of it. I get you. Can I express a concern that I have, or not a concern, sort of like I want to push back a little bit here. I hear you, and I will 100% cop to the fact that people across space and time have, seen God or experienced God in one form or another using meditation or psychedelics, right? Like there's something about the human brain that it's like if you can sort of reach this, some people call it like an enlightenment or whatever, but it's like if you can find that meditation brings good out of a lot of people, and there are secular folks who preach the benefits of meditation as a way to like be mindful and even find like almost like a transcendent peace, whatever that is. But like from an outsider looking in, my question is, the human brain is wild. We've seen what it does under a lot of different influences of a lot of different drugs that are both external to the body or produced within it. Near-death experiences are sometimes attributed to like massive bursts of what is effectively DMT in your brain before you die. So I struggle with this parsing of what is brains doing wacky brain things versus touching the divine, and how do you tell the difference between the two? And the reason I say that is because there are similarities in the trips or near-death experiences that people have, but there are also vast differences. There doesn't seem to be a single experience or a single type of enlightenment or whatever that a single person can undergo, which I would expect if what you're tapping into is this sort of objective universal truth. So to me, it reads more like human brains are weird and human brains are variable. So when human brains do weird things, they're going to home in on some similarities, but they're also going to be very different. And that doesn't mean that they're necessarily tapping into the next life or God incarnate or whatever. That's my issue so far.
Well, so people who tap into and I also like to state that enlightenment is more of a process rather than a state of being, right? It's something that if you do achieve it at some point, something that needs to be maintained with every action going forward, right? You can't just stop doing what you were doing and maintain that state. But also, I think I just lost my thought. So as far as people who experience those states, sorry, there's a lot that just got sent my way, Erika. But so if you experience those states, and everyone kind of comes back stating like the same ideas of oneness and just multidimensional existence in this sort of like etheric space when they achieve those states of consciousness. So how can all these people have all of these different experiences? And sure, all of our realities are subjective, but ultimately when you enter these spaces, it's more of an objective experience. And so how come all these people are going and having these experiences and coming back with pretty much the same adjectives to describe these spaces.
Well, I think I that kind of gets at what I was saying earlier, right? Like, I don't doubt that there are similarities between, trips that people take, be they psychedelic or meditative or whatever, across space and time. I don't think I don't have a problem with that. We know that human brains share similarities, and we know that they're also incredibly disparate from one another. I would kind of liken it to the hormone release, the hormone rush right after a mother has given birth, right? Where it is just like this incredible blast of hormones that allows the mother to bond with the baby. And whether we're talking about humans or other mammals or even non-mammals, this is something that happens a lot. It's not, 100% of the time, but it happens a lot. And part of that actually manages to help the mother forget the agony of birth, which is why people have more than one child. But you can listen to interviews of mothers who will, and my own mom has told me this, or it's like when you give birth to a child, it's like you're Gaia, you've tapped into something that is just a transcendent human experience that is unlike anything anyone has ever experienced. And I hear that. And on one hand, it's like, yes, there is something that is uniting all these people. It's called going through the horrific process of childbirth and getting a kid out of it, which is amazing and scary and wonderful and hideous all at the same time. But does that mean that they're actually tapping into something supernatural, which is something that some women do report, right? That they've had this experience that like unites them with every other woman on the planet, past and present, and into the mammalian foremothers of the past. It's like, no, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's going on. Brains are insane. Hormones are wild. They do incredible things to us. And I'm not even going to sit here and say that what you're experiencing isn't literally tapping into God or enlightenment. I'm saying, how do you tell the difference? How do you tell when you're tapping into God versus when your body is doing wacky things? Because to me, the ubiquity of these bizarre experiences that humans have, be it birth or be it tripping or be it meditation or near-death experiences, that doesn't necessarily speak to the truth of the divine, but it speaks to the truth of what it is to be human, which is to be a mammal with a big gooey blob of tapioca in your head that makes you experience being. Not being hashtag supernatural, but being hashtag gooey, spongy human body type things.
So, I mean, yeah, I get that. That's I don't know how to put that into words, but essentially that's the difficult part, right? Because whenever anyone has an experience, like, it's your own experience, and you can't know what that person's experiencing to know that they're experiencing the right thing. So one person may actually be experiencing, godhood or those types of oneness emotions and states of consciousness, right, while another is not and thinks that they are. Or kind of like how a lot of atheists are pretty intelligent and some are really stupid, and the same for theists. Some are really intelligent, some are really stupid. I mean, there's spectrums throughout all of this, and I think that it's up to the person to know what they're engaging with and how it fits into their reality, and how putting those labels onto those things for yourself, it's not really for anyone else to do.
So that's the fundamental issue, right? Is that it's like, I can't sit here and tell you that you didn't experience God. I don't know you. I don't know your experience. And I don't think anybody knows the brain well enough to say what's actually going on when somebody meditates and finds this incredible peace. Maybe they do. I'm not, a neurologist or anything like that. I tend to not think that it's divine for the reasons why I've explained here. But, at the end of the day, if you're trying to talk to somebody who's like skeptical on this kind of thing, that's a hard chasm to cross. That it's like, well, sometimes it is God.
We can just get rid of the whole personal experience thing.
Yeah, and I mean, yes, but as a last sort of thing that I want to touch on here, I've known people who have had like schizophrenic or psychoactive episodes, and sometimes you have, and I believe like the official, like the medical term is like delusions of grandeur, where it's like people think that they've met God or they think that they are God when they undergo this. And it's like, I don't think that they're tapping into divinity when that's happening. I think that brains are annoying and chemical imbalances in the brain can be scary and they can make us do weird stuff. But
you can generally tell that people are unhealthy, can you not?
Right, you can generally tell, but we haven't always been able to generally tell, right? Like, I think it's been the case in the past where people who have been under psychoactive influence, or who are under an episode, having a schizophrenic episode or something like that, have come to their local tribe and been like, I just saw the sun god and now he inhabits my body. And then now you've got a new religion, like there's no doubt in my mind that has happened in the history of humans. The problem is it's hard to tell the difference. Like, I think now with the advent of modern medicine and with the ubiquity of media, we're better at it, but that doesn't mean that we know for sure. And certainly,
Well, I mean, I think.
Go ahead. It's fine.
Sorry, I just like, there's cults, right? There's a whole bunch of people making up a whole bunch of religions, a whole bunch of nonsense. That doesn't, I feel like, take away from some of the more primary religions that are based in truth, where when you look at them, they all kind of correlate to one another. Like if you look at many of the major religions, you'll find a lot of similarities between them, kind of like with numbers. So if I say one and somebody speaks Spanish says uno, we're both talking about the number one, which, math, we discovered it, we didn't invent it. So it's kind of the same with God, right? We discovered him, we didn't invent him. So if you're going to go invent God, then you're going to be wrong, or you're going to come up with a lot of missing variables on what is actually true. But there's people who have actually used not only just personal experience, but to combine that with science and metaphysics and psychology, math, and all of these things to, like, look at the Egyptians, right? They built the pyramids completely aligned with the stars in a way that is just mind-boggling. We can't even figure out how they made the pyramids to this day. And they were doing things by using systems within themselves that we are currently just learning how to access. And so evolution, you love evolution, Erika. So, like, we're evolving inward and upward, but what to? Like, what is the point of all of this? Is it just a meaningless creation? Is there no meaning to reality at all?
I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. Alyssa wanted to say something. Alyssa, please.
Yeah,
I will say my piece after you're done.
Well, I wanted to ask, how do you know that any of this is true? Because there are similarities between different religions, but they are not unanimously the same. And so how are you supposed to know which one is true and which one is not? Like, how could you explain to me why Scientology is a religion that many people believe that is, in some ways in conflict with Christianity, which is, massively believed by the westernized world? So, like, how are you going to convince a person that one God or one version of God or one religion is more right than the other? They are similar, but I also think that they kind of are referencing each other in some way. Like, I think that a lot of these texts are in reference to one another. Like, I think they're kind of like stealing each other's ideas as they're creating and expanding on what their belief systems are. So how do you know what's true?
So yeah, like I was saying before with numbers, I think the best religions are based on numbers, based on Pythagorean mathematics. Pythagoras himself was a initiate scholar. Basically, he taught people in the ways of God, but through numbers and music and sound and wavelengths and stuff like that. But essentially, I don't know enough about Scientology to really. I know it's some weird alien God thing, and that's already about all I know about that. But I think if it's not based in one, a holy trinity that creates all things, is the primary source of all matter, space, time, anything beyond that, light. If it doesn't include that with some sort of Christic logos ordering mechanism that goes into matter and revitalizes it, and brings it, basically transmutes the matter back into spirit or pure light. If it's not including those key aspects, then I don't really think it's a religion that's worth following or has any sort of valuable knowledge within it. Because those two things are essentially like the most prominent aspects of any religion. It's like, how do we come to being, and then how do we go back to that original state of supreme consciousness? We're one with everything, but still ourselves.
Do you think it's possible, though, Oriel, that like there's a sort of natural selection going on with religions where it's like religious ideas pop up all the time across the world, even today? We call them cults usually, but they do pop up. And they've been popping up since the dawn of human history, and probably in the history of closely related hominins like Neanderthals and Denisovans. So it's like, we, since our ability to recognize that we are something that exists somewhere, have wondered what the hell is going on. And because of that, we try to find agency because we have agency and we do things. We try to find agency in the world around us because mortality is scary. It can be scary, it's, especially if you're, a hominin living on the savannah 300,000 years ago. So do you not think that it's possible that hominids have been coming up with ideas with how to explain the world around them, and the ones that are the most personal and the most hopeful are the ones that stick around and gather the most followers. Like, for instance, you can be forgiven for everything evil that you've ever done, or that one day you will be reunited with the oneness from whence you came, right? Or that there's some objectivity to this idea with the mathematics and the beauty of the natural world. It's like, I'm not saying that that's what's going on. I'm saying that that is another plausible reason as to why we have religions that share so many similarities with one another, why we have a trickster god in a lot of religions, and why we have demigods in many religions, or global floods in many religions, or mythical beasts and powerful heroes who slay them in many religions. I mean, I'm not appealing to some divine unity of all humans. I'm arguing for a biological unity of all humans, because we are a storytelling ape, and that's how we make sense of the world around us and do really incredible and really horrific things. So to me, when I hear what you're saying, like, I hear you and I recognize that those patterns exist, I feel that there's an easier explanation for it. Also,
So,
we do know
I
how the
understand what you're
pyramids
saying,
were
right?
made.
So-
I wanted to say that. We do know how they made the pyramids. It's rope with salt and a whole lot of human laborers.
Okay, I think I'll have to look into that. Could you tell me real quick what, like, study or whatever you for that? Because I've actually not seen that.
Yeah, I think
Before I get into the next part.
you're going to have to let me look it up. I don't know it off the top of my head. I think it was by the same guys who showed how you could move the Easter Island heads by rocking them. It was basically, there's this group of archaeologists that they try to show how these ancient monuments can be built using modern techniques, but the techniques aren't modern. They're just ancient and clever. While you're talking, I'll find the study for you.
Okay, cool. So what I feel like I think it's pretty interesting that we have this pattern of throughout mankind, you know, since we were Homo erectus and even lower. Well, actually, I don't know when we developed language and non-linguistic, but I took a little bit of anthropology, but not too much. So, you know, since we developed language and we're doing all these things, we started to have probably personal experiences with the divine. I mean, we didn't live in a hyper-stimulated society. We lived in caves and we lived in very still lives where we were constantly in meditative states, or we didn't even always have language to use. So we may have been tapping into higher brainwave cognition levels at just a natural state of being. And I also don't think magic is real. I kind of feel like magic is just things that we can't explain with science yet, but can eventually explain. Because there's a lot of things that if you took things from today and brought it to the past, it'd be like, well, that's magic, and it's just science. And so I feel like just because, sorry.
Oriel, because I'll forget it, honestly. What do you feel like is the difference between magic? What do you think the difference is between magic and miracles? That makes one true and one not.
I think a miracle and magic is the same, essentially. It's just that we maybe can't explain it with what we're seeing or what we're experiencing or with the science that we currently understand, but that if we were to evolve to a certain period, state of consciousness and knowledge, that we would be able to explain it, essentially.
So who's to say that the existence of God and the existence of these religions as they have existed up until now is exactly that? It is exactly what Erika said. It is a reason for the things that we could not understand. It filled in the gaps of places where we don't have an explanation, and that's all that it is. But that doesn't mean that it's the truth. Like we've used this example before, but we used to think fires were magic as well too. We used to think fire was magic, and we know that that's not the case any longer. So who's to say that that is not the case with God as a whole?
So as far as that goes, I mean, as we expand into our realities, we only see less than 1% of the color spectrum. Even with our tools, we don't see very much. I think there's so much more to experience and know, like string theory, and I think string theory is up to like 11 different higher dimensions or something like that. Something crazy. I think where we'd ultimately start to...
There is much more to experience and know. You're totally right on that. But again, I think the area where Alyssa... I'll just say this one thing and I'll boot it back to you. I'm sorry. The issue where we're kind of butting heads, me and Alyssa and you, is that it's like you see this immense chasm of knowledge that exists because we're only human and we're doing our best. And that's where you put the divine. And Alyssa and I just say, we don't know what's there. We don't think it's divine.
We have like the phi ratio, right? We have the golden ratio that where we see the most amount of orders through this ratio. And I think what you would start to see is that everything is energy, and energy cannot be created or destroyed, and that the universe is far more alive than we ever thought. And I think right now we don't have the ability to sense life forms in higher dimensions. So I think once we start to be able to do that we will be able to start realizing that, oh, this isn't magic. This is just higher dimensional entities interacting with lower dimensional space. And you'll see that the whole universe is ordered by math and geometry, essentially fractal geometry. And so what we're going to start to see is that, oh, wow, like everything isn't meaningless. Everything is ordered over some sort of blueprint. And whether that takes you to God or not, I think that's also, again, a personal experience that you have to walk yourself. But ultimately, I think that we can very much see that the universe is ordered and that chaos is not the norm. Chaos wants to find a orderly place, right? It builds galaxies, it builds solar systems, it builds planets, it builds stars. Even stars themselves, I mean, they have all the characteristics of what it is alive, right? They live, they burn energy, they reproduce by exploding and creating more stars, and they, can't remember all the things that are about that, but essentially they have a lot of aspects with what it is to be alive, and they order space around them. They keep entire solar systems in check, and the reason we are alive is because of the sun radiating its energy onto us and building us up. Erika, you want to say something? And this is also the evolution part I was getting into, is where, inward and upward, or what are we going towards?
Yeah, so what I'll say is that no, the sun does not meet the characteristics of being alive, but I wanted to interrupt you because I wanted to give you those sources, and somebody in the chat corrected me. It's not salt and rope, it's sand and rope, which makes more sense because there's plenty of sand in the desert. Here are your, just make sure that you have a pen and paper there, Oriel, while I tell you this. The first source is Sticks, Stones, and Shadows, Building the Egyptian Pyramids by Martin Eisler. And the second source is second edition of Experiments in Egyptian Archaeology, Stoneworking Technology in Ancient Egypt by Denise A. Stocks. And both of these are going to talk about a technology that is called, sand abrasion, which is essentially what I was just describing. It's, you basically use sand on rope and friction, and you can cut granite with enough manpower. And then you have to move them, but it's actually quite, I mean, I won't say it's easy. It's technologically simple to move large blocks of granite. Just put logs underneath them and roll them along the ground. It's horrific, but if you have enough life to throw out, do it.
How do you move like a 10, I don't know how heavy the blocks are, but they're like 10 tons, 100 tons or something like that. How do you move that to the top of a pyramid?
With ramps.
Yeah, but with like ramps, who's going to pull it? Like, even if you'd have to have like thousands of people, would you not?
Yes, you would have to have thousands of people, but that's what corvée laborers were for. But what's interesting is that what is it? It's someone Khafre and Menkaure. Those are the guys. I forget the first of the three pharaohs who commissioned the pyramids of Giza. But the pyramids of Giza didn't come out of nothing, right? Like before the pyramids of Giza, you had the bent pyramid, you had the red pyramid, and you had all of these mastabas. And it's basically just experimental workups to getting to the pyramidal form that you see at Giza. In fact, the bent pyramid is funny because it's so human. It's just painfully human when you see it. It's like they're coming at this pyramid and you see them and they're building and they're like, what, we're building too steep. And then they're like, okay, just finish it. And it's like clunk, it's this very awkward looking pyramid because humans, we were still learning.
Can you fit that many people? I'm a little bit off tangent, but can you even fit that many people on the top of the pyramid when you're breaking those blocks up? Like, that's kind of what I'm kind of like, especially when I get towards the top parts. Like, how are you going to fit that many people?
So if you look at a picture of how the pyramids were built, right? This ramp isn't coming like, a mile away at a steady incline. It's a ramp that sort of hugs the side of the pyramid. So when you're moving these big blocks of the pyramid, whether you're using some kind of water transport to get them to the pyramid side in the first place, or whether you're just using logs the whole time, you're basically taking a log and putting it in front. You've got like 6 logs, the block's on top of the logs, it's rolling along the logs, and then somebody in the back pulls one out and sticks it in the front, and you continue to roll it. Once you get it to the level that you want it to be at along the ramp, you turn it, and then you push it onto where the blocks are supposed to go. Either, you're at the base level or you're several levels up. And then these blocks are typically capped with limestone, if memory serves.
Okay.
It's not, what I'm saying is that
I just want to say
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say for the chat, my personal opinion, it's obviously just an opinion from what I've read in places, but I think sound is kind of what created the universe, and I feel like they use vibratory sound to move these incredibly large things and to also cut through them. But I think this is kind of besides the point. I do appreciate having that conversation. But I also want to talk about stars because, like, said they're not alive, but like they metabolize energy, right? They're born, right? They formulate themselves kind of like we're born in the womb. We start very small and we get bigger and bigger. So they start very small and they pull in a whole bunch of stardust and get bigger and bigger. They grow. They have a depth.
I ask
they have structure.
before we move on to stars, can I just ask one more question about the whole pyramid conversation?
Yeah,
because as we were having this conversation, like, I just don't want to interrupt and backtrack. As we were having this conversation, what frustrates me is this is an exact example of a situation where we did not have the answer. You, at that time, did not have the answer for how these things were created, and so you filled in the gap with God in some way, shape, or form, or
that's not
divinity.
What I meant.
So it's some what's the word? Not divine, but like metaphysical.
I just meant more
type of thing.
I meant more of a metaphysical science, like a science that is beyond our current understanding, because we like to separate God from science, and I feel like that really sets us back.
So, but my point in bringing this up is you filled in the gap with metaphysical because you didn't have a better answer at that time. Erika is able to provide a better answer to you. So this is an exact moment where why did it make more sense for you to say the pyramids could not have been built because I don't have the answer for it. They could not have been built by human beings. It had to be something metaphysical.
I didn't say they weren't human.
Hold on. It also is, I think there's also something interesting about when people do this and they take all of the credit away from the human beings that created this really amazing thing. Like, if I were to believe that there were other forces at play to build the pyramids, I would think that they are like less incredible. The reason why the pyramids are one of the wonders of the world, one of the most incredible things that we've seen, is because it is an insane achievement for human beings. It also is an achievement based on the backs of the lives of people who were slaves and had to create that. So it's like you're taking all of this credit that should go to the human beings who figured out how to do this, which is incredible. And then also the blood, sweat, and tears, literally, that built this pyramid, and you're giving it to something metaphysical. And it's like, that feels like it almost like diminishes the accomplishment and the achievement of human beings in those moments. Do you see what I mean? It's like, I don't know if that's even useful to bring up to you, but I do think about that a lot.
And the guys also note, like, I'm reading the chat. Everyone just being really toxic. I don't really care, but like, I'm here in good faith. I'm not really trying to be rude or anything, but I'm also listening to you. They're saying that I'm not listening, but doing my best here. But what I meant basically is that humans definitely built the pyramids. It's just that basically that I feel like they had tools and abilities, not abilities like of their bodies, but they had scientific understandings that we don't of matter and space, and they were able to use that to manipulate their surroundings in a way that we can't even fathom to this current point in time, because science basically rejected a god.
So
we can fathom because Erika just explained it to you.
Yeah, like I think that would be
well,
epic.
right, and like so it's kind of like we weren't there though. So it's all really just a theory.
Oh no! Because the thing is that like ideas leave traces of themselves, right? So when we look at the Egyptian pyramids and when we find what is effectively the blueprints, the orders from somebody like Menkaure to build one of these pyramids, there doesn't seem to be any mention of any technology that we are unfamiliar with. That's true that for a while people weren't 100% sure of how the pyramids were made. Likewise, we weren't sure how people on Easter Island managed to move those beautiful heads into position all over the island. But people are incredibly clever, as Alyssa was just saying, right? I mean, we found these beautiful jade bracelets that are associated with Denisovans. We find art associated with Neanderthals, right? Like, we know that humans aren't the only ones who were capable of this kind of thing, of doing things just because as humans, we're obsessed with being like, I was here. We're obsessed with leaving behind a trace of ourselves so that other people know that we were here, that we were somebody, that we lived a life, and that we had these dreams, and that, you know, we wondered about the same things that they wondered about. I just don't, like, I'm not saying that there's nothing divine going on. I'm saying that we don't have any evidence that there is. If you want to appeal to like wild technology for something like the pyramids, you got to show that there is, one, a question that simply can't be answered about it, that there's no Occam's razor way to answer the question. And two, you have to show that there's traces of something that we can't explain. If you went to the pyramids and you found like an insane amount of radiation or something on the capstone or where the capstone was, we'd be having a very different conversation, right? Or if you found like an expansive temple complex with gears and electric lights beneath the pyramids, we'd be having a different conversation. But as it stands, these are wonderfully impressive monuments that were completed, you know, by corvée laborers, blood, sweat, and tears, as Alyssa said, right? Using methods that are gratuitous, to say the least, but did get the job done. We see something similar with Stonehenge. We see something similar with the ziggurats of South America or of Ur, or over in Southeast Asia. And people often ask, why did the pyramid keep showing up so many times? It's because it's the most stable structure. That's the only reason. You don't build a perfectly vertical obelisk of the size of the pyramids because it's very difficult to do, which begs the question, why is everybody building the most simple structure instead of these incredible feats of architectural superiority if they have the help of advanced technology? Because we do that today. They're called skyscrapers. But we don't find any ancient skyscrapers. We find much more structurally sound monuments that are honestly more impressive than what we're doing today in some ways, just because of the scale and what they had at their hands at the time. But they're clearly products of their time. And you got to show the whole there before we start appealing to extraordinary causes, I would say.
Yeah, I just think there's kind of I don't really view it as like magic or God or anything like that. I feel like, is it a connection to God? Sure, that brings these insights. Like, we look at the chambers inside the pyramid that are fully built to like mathematic precision, and like some of them echo sound in such a perfect way. Like, they were using these as temples for something. And I don't know exactly what. I think there's definitely some incredible like spiritual process going on with these. But I don't know exactly. I'm not really like a scholar of Egyptian stuff, but I just feel like the level that they had everything aligned with the stars. And
we do this all over the place because you're living in a time period where there's virtually no lights, and at nighttime you look up at the sky and you see the color of it and the immensity of it. It's like that's not surprising to me, because we did the same thing with the moon, we did the same thing with the sun, we do the same thing with all celestial bodies because they're cool as hell, and we like to venerate ourselves and we like to venerate the world around us. But the problem is, just because we do something and find divinity in it and spirituality in it, and because we assign spirituality to it, doesn't mean it's so, right? We also used to have very common rituals all over the world to deal with migrating uteruses, because people believed that that's what made women crazy. And that's where the word hysteria comes from. I think it was Hippocrates who was responsible for it.
Yes.
Or Hippocrates. I'm not sure if you say Hippocrates or Hippocrates, either one. But it's like, they quite literally put fumes in front of the vaginal opening to try to bring the uterus back down to where it's supposed to be. And this is something that emerged more than once as an idea, because people are people, and we have similar experiences, and sometimes we converge on the same ideas to explain them. Sometimes we don't, but sometimes we do. But that doesn't mean that the uterus is wandering, and it doesn't mean that spirituality is a tangible thing. It might be. It's not like the uterus, and that we can disprove that it wanders, right? But it doesn't mean that it is. And I think that's where our breaking point is here tonight. For this concept, for me at least, that's I don't think we're going to be able to get over that, because I think you're appealing to something. And I think you're here in good faith. I don't, chat will bully you. You got to be careful. I've been
I don't care. I'm just saying, like, all I'm seeing is toxicity. That's all I got to say.
I think that the chat is also very used to people coming with not good intentions too. So whatever it does, they're just, it's like the chat is sort of like overhearing. Sometimes it feels like I'm overhearing in like a conversation sometimes. And also if you're paying too much attention to the chat, then we end up getting sidetracked of like what our conversation is too. But yeah, I think Oriel, the whole, Yeah, don't worry about it. The whole piece where we're going to cross paths in a way that where we're not going to see eye to eye is Erika and I are never likely going to have a situation where it's I don't have the answer, therefore God, or therefore metaphysical, therefore something
I'm just
divine.
trying to bring you to where my answers are, and I get that's a really difficult process, and it originally was triggered by personal experience, but I just feel like ancient philosophy mixed with modern psychology and religion and modern science, which also, like, the Egyptians had an understanding of the universe and galaxies and the stars that we're, just recently caught up to with all our tools and magic, not magic, obviously, but like telescopes and really advanced technologies that they already understood forever ago. And it's like, what were they tapping into that we don't have access to without our instruments and our tools, right? Our body as an instrument is incredibly evolved. It has evolved over billions of years, and it is inside of it. There is incredible.
Hold on though, because I'm going to push back on that a little bit, because the Egyptians were smart as whips in a lot of ways, right? They were capable of relieving pressure on swollen brains by like tamping out a portion of it. And we even see like early versions of dental surgery with these guys. But at the same time, they thought that the soul dwelt in the heart and that the brain was a semi-useless organ, right? So there's a lot of stuff that they knew. Well, in some ways, sure. Some people certainly don't use theirs, but in some ways they were incredibly advanced, and in other ways they weren't. In the same way, other cultures were incredibly advanced in some ways, and they weren't in others. And people will look back at our society and say the exact same thing, such as the nature of society and cultural exchange and being human and discovery. I don't think that that's a reason. Again, you have to have something that Occam's razor here can't accomplish. Like, if you want to appeal to something as grand as they had technology that we don't today and still can't figure out, like drills, or I'm not saying you're saying this, but like drills or gravity cubes or electricity before we did, or something like that, there's got to be a sign there that we can't currently even like comprehend or even know where to begin. Something like radiation, something like burn marks on the sides of their pyramids that they were using lasers to etch them, or something along those lines. But as it stands, there are reasonable explanations for all that we see in the natural, or not in the natural world, but in the archaeological record. There's strange things and things that we can't explain the motivations behind. But technologically speaking, I struggle to think of something that we're just like, man, I have no idea how they did that. It must have been something strange and advanced that we haven't rediscovered yet. But I'm also not an archaeologist, so I guess it's possible that there's something out there that I'm not aware of.
Okay. As far as string theory goes, like, what do you guys think is up there? Like, are you just kind of okay, stay on the sideline until maybe we figure it out? Like, you don't think like there's life up there? I guess as we can see it now, like, life is a pretty rare circumstance. I don't believe that we're the only life forms in the universe, but as far as we can see, there doesn't seem to be any life near us that we can see. But would you not feel like there is like higher conscious beings inside of those higher spaces that we can literally not see or access in any way possible way?
Man, you were asking a real goober about string theory. It's funny that you mentioned this, because the other day I was like, this is actually like last month. I was sitting around and I was like, I don't even think I know what string theory is. Like, I don't even think I have a firm grip on it. So my husband and I sat down.
I thought string. Did you like figure it out? Because I thought string theory was like it. People are fated to find each other, and there are like events along the way. That's literally what I thought.
No, what is that? That's like the string theory, but like in the sense that it's like you find your fated other half. Like the string theory, I think that Oriel's getting at is the physics theory that tries. It's supposed to be a theory of everything, so it's supposed to tie together like the four major forces in a way that unites gravity with the other three. But it's like. Mm-hmm. And I don't know enough about string theory. Nobody quote me on string theory. I'm not a string theorist. And these days, enough people see what I say that I get busted whenever I get anything wrong, even a little bit. And I'm glad, because then I'm less wrong, but it irritates me because it's me versus a million people. My understanding of string theory is that
it's fine. I just explained my thing of string theory, and like the chat is like, LOL, Alyssa. Listen, that's what I thought. Okay? I'm honest. I'm going to tell you what I thought.
Whatever. Exactly. Whatever. Like who? And I'm telling you, you said that in part because I just said I literally didn't know what it was. Well, had a vague idea, but it wasn't until recently that I got a better grip on like what it is that they're actually saying, what the physicists are actually saying. And what Oriel says about needing extra dimensions to make it work is true. To the best of my understanding, I think they got it down from double digits to like 8 extra dimensions maybe, but
It's
that
at
would be
11
extra.
still, I think.
Is it at 11? Okay, you might be right. I'm not sure. But the idea is that, it works, but you need more dimensions than the ones that we inhabit. Therefore, it's like there are bits and pieces of it missing. We can't quite use it as a unifying theory of everything yet. It might end up working. It might end up not working. I don't know enough about physics or like the cutting edge of physics to say. But what I will say is that if string theory becomes true tomorrow, and we're sort of appealing to these extra dimensions as the sort of dwelling place of these higher beings, I don't know if I buy that either. And it's for the sheer reason of we exist in 4 dimensions now, and I am aware of exactly 0, 3, 2, or 1-dimensional beings that I have immense power and omnipotence over. You see what I mean? Like, if there's...
Well, because you only exist in the 3rd dimension, so how would you...
Sorry, say that again?
How would you... You only exist in the 3rd dimension, so how would you interact with things in the 1st or 2nd dimension?
Well, I'm saying I exist in 4, right?
Well, 4th dimension as well, I guess.
Height and time, yeah. So I believe I exist in...
But our primary consciousness...
Yeah, sure. But it's like, because I can't, that's what I'm saying, because I exist in 4 and I can't interact or oversee or be omnipotent to anything that exists in fewer dimensions than me, why would I expect that God is just this higher dimensional being that can interact? Like, there's no reason to think that even if there was life that inhabits all of these other dimensions in a way that is somehow analogous to humans with consciousness and whatever, that they would be godlike to us, as opposed to something that is almost just imperceptible because we don't occupy space and time in the same way, if that makes sense. That's my understanding of it. So it's like, to me, I agree. String theory doesn't help or hurt you. But I also don't know enough about it to talk about. So you got a call when Aaron is back on.
Okay.
Dr. Dare.
So I would just also say, like, we can't really, as far as like seeing, I don't think higher life forms really exist in lower dimensions anyways. You need higher dimensions to create those higher structures. But like, you can't, like, for your eyes, they see the world in 3 dimensions, and 4th is, I guess, technically time, so that's inherent. But you can't just like turn your eyes into like a 2-dimensional lens and just see 2-dimensionally, right? So we don't really have that ability. We see 3-dimensionally. And then as far as like the other dimensions,
right? Like, so why would somebody in 11 or 10 or 9 or 8 or 7 or 6, how would they be able to peer into, the podunk dimensions that I inhabit, Like, what makes you think that they're able to interact with us?
We can create examples of the 1st and 2nd dimension, but we can't like alter our genetic structure to actually change ourselves to see that way. So like a higher dimensional being, I mean, obviously I don't know what they would consist of. Well, because they'd be so much more advanced. I mean, for you to exist without a body, without a physical body. Right.
You see what I mean?
Continue to get more advanced. And right. So we as self-conscious beings on Earth are among the most complex and aware entities on the Earth. And I think it's kind of, there's levels to it as well in the higher kingdoms, right? So there are things that are higher consciousness than us, more self-aware than us. And self-awareness ultimately comes down to the whole universe, right? Everything is one non-locality. Everything is connected to each other. And
maybe, Oriel, but I don't know that follows. Like that might be the case. I don't know. I don't think we know enough about physics to be like, to preclude that as an idea, or to say that string theory is definitely true. I mean, I can't, I'm the wrong person to talk about that, first of all. But second of all, to me, this sort of comes back to the fundamental disagreement that Alyssa and I have with you on this, which is that it's like, for us, an open question is an open question. I don't know if there's going to be a theory of everything. I don't know if something can unify the 4 forces or whatever. If it can, I don't know what that would even look like, because I'm an idiot when it comes to this subject. However, just because I don't know the answer to it doesn't mean I think that it's necessarily divine or spiritual, or even that it leads in that direction. I'm comfortable to sit here and say, I don't know the answer to that. But I feel like over the course of this conversation, I feel like your instinct is, when something is kind of strange or weird or unknowable, you find it very easy to say, well, that's God, right? Or that's the unity of the universe, or we're all tapping into something at the same. You know what I mean? And like sometimes mundane answers exist, is what I'm saying. And I worry that your reluctance to accept mundane answers and stuff like the pyramids might be reflecting on your not inability, but your reluctance to accept or entertain even mundane answers at the cosmic scale, especially when we have no idea what's going on. Well, okay, that's throwing shade on physicists. Dr. Adair probably has some idea of what's going on. I don't have any idea what's going on.
Okay, I get you. And so maybe we can just kind of, you're looking for proofs and you want them to be material, and God is an infinite being. Do we agree, at least, that infinity is a concept that is real and exists in math?
That infinity is a concept that is real?
Yeah, is it real? Does it have,
I think infinity is real.
Existence in reality?
I guess. I guess it's I guess it's real, but I also infinity feel like the only thing that I can think of that is truly infinite would be like space, but that's because as far as we know, it's infinite, but like hypothetically that could change.
Well, and it's expanding, right? So we continue to watch it expanding faster than light. So to us, it's infinite.
Yeah.
And you can even see infinities inside numbers, right? From 1 to 2, you can have infinite odd numbers with 2. So there's infinities inside infinities. What were you going to say, Erika?
No, I was going to say, like, I was thinking of it in a mathematics sense, because it's like, okay, yeah, like infinity exists in math, but then I started thinking about it and I was like, is infinity something that it's kind of broken my brain. Like, is infinity something that you can observe? Is infinity something, like, if I took half steps all the way across this room, I could take half steps an infinite amount of times and never reach the other side, right? Like, in that sense, infinity is real, but at the same time, like, I tend to understand it only within the context of mathematics. So I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know what a physicist would say.
Our reality is ordered by math, is it not? Everything that we know about reality is always put into mathematical figures.
Right, but my understanding of physics models is that we have a lot of physics models that exist out there that work mathematically because of infinity, but then there are also mathematical models that you can sort of solve without using it. So it's almost like a stand-in or something. I don't know if I'm saying this right.
You don't need infinity for every model, but you need it for some. And then all I'm saying is, though, that we use math to kind of justify theories of our understanding of reality. And infinity is a concept within math. And if we use math to justify very well-known and proven theories that we all agree is true, why would it not also be the same for infinity if it exists within math?
Because I guess what I'm thinking of in my head when I think of infinity as applied outside of a mathematical context, I'm thinking of it in with respect to like the universe, which only seems infinite because it's expanding at such a rate that there's a limit to it, and I don't think we're 100% sure what it looks like beyond that limit. I think it's contingent on whether the universe is speeding up in its expansion. No, you're right. I don't know, but that doesn't mean it's infinity, right? I don't know if
it continues to expand,
sure,
and it continues to show that it is taking the aspects of infinity as it
for
is.
Sure. But I also don't know if the personal experiences that you've had in your life were you getting in touch with the divine, right? Like, I don't know if that is or isn't, but right now I can't answer that question. I also don't think I can answer the question as to what is beyond the cosmic horizon. I think we have a suspicion that it's depending on, again, the speed at which the universe is expanding, but I don't know. I think infinity is real in math, and jury's still out for me as far as external to math, I think that's my answer to the question. But I don't know. I'm an idiot on this subject.
Did you have anything to say before I go on?
No, I agree. I also would add that somebody in the chat had said that life is described with math. Hello. It's getting late. My brain is operating at half speed. Life can be described by math, but math is not describing life. So just because infinite is a concept that we have in math does not mean that infinity has to exist in a tangible, provable way as a theory. And I also I want to also be mindful of time as well, because we've been on this call for, I think, like over an hour, just over an hour. So I'd like to
I
wrap this
appreciate you
up
guys' time, by the way.
relatively soon, but
Sure, of course.
if
I'm
you'd
sorry,
like
did I
to, I
cut
mean,
you
if
off,
you have
Alyssa?
other things you want to add, about the infinity of it all as your
I
final
guess
thoughts.
what I was trying to get to with that is like, is if infinity is the concept that exists in reality, then that is what I view God as. I view it as an infinite being, beyond
Okay.
reckon, beyond. It's ineffable, right? Like as Erika said, you can't imagine it. It goes beyond our ability to reason. And so, if you're basing that off of, if you're putting yourself in that lens, then math is basically this way we know the universe. I can't remember if I'm wrong on this, I might be, but there was some theory that the universe is a matrix, everything's based on zeros and ones or something like that. I may be wrong in that, but basically what I'm getting at is that 0 through 10 basically is the creation of the universe, right? So with 1, we have the monad, it's the source of all. And so it's just like a stretched line, which is basically just 0 moving, so it's a 1. The monad is the first principle, which is unity and the uncaused cause. And this represents like ultimate divinity. This is what I think all true religions worship, is like this source creation, this one. It's indivisible, so there's nothing that can divide it. It's unchanging. It always is what it is. Everything can be divided by it. And so it's just essentially like this perfect representation of God. You know, God is the one from which all things come and to which all things return. And then we have 2, which is the triad, which is duality. And we have essentially like the Vesca Pisces of creation, right? So 2 things interacting with each other, the positive and the negative, the male and the female, to create everything essentially from those 2. And from those 2, that's essentially just polarity. And then from those 2, we get 3, which 3 connects together as a triangle, a perfect equilateral triangle, if we're being precise. And this is like the harmony of the universe, right? Everything goes through this lens. If we take a white light and put it through I don't remember the word for it, it's a triangle, but like you put a white light through it, becomes a rainbow, right? So this is what basically 1 shines its light through the 3. So this is the harmony and the logos. 3 is the number of completion, balance, and divine expression. And this is all Pythagorean mathematics, if anyone wants to look it up. This is who I learned. And so that's the Trinity, which is in all predominant religions, like you'll have some sort of Trinity that has the source of creation. And this is where like everything starts to really get crazy, because we start to get real shapes. We get the tetrax, which is the number 4, which is a square, but also going to be a triangle, which can also be a circle, 360 degrees. It only is by the way, it's only a triangle if you make a tetrax. But a square and a circle are identical in degrees, or 360 degrees. It's the male and the female. It's also why I personally feel men and women are so equal to one another. They're different, but the same at the same time. You need both to create in the world. You need to respect both, essentially. But the tetrax is interesting because when you make one of those, you get
Oriel,
10, and 10 is essentially the completion.
Do you think maybe, I think just for the sake of time, I think it might be wiser to like...
That was about it.
Maybe... Yeah, okay, roger that. Okay. Well, thank you. This was a fun conversation. I, for one, enjoyed it. I appreciate it. You know, thank you for calling in. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, and I respect your guys' perspective. Thank you for respecting mine. I hope you guys have a great rest of your time, and God bless.
Of course. Take care.
Thanks, Oriel. Sometimes when conversations go in that direction, I'm like, either I am dumb, or I'm really tired, or secret third option, we've lost the plot on the conversation and I don't know what we're talking about anymore, which I think is where we were at. I was like, I actually don't know what's going on anymore. I lost it somewhere along the way. Lost the breadcrumbs along the way.
I think it's so hard too. And, you know, to his credit, Oriel talked about this at the beginning, where it's like, you know, he's got a lot of this coming from personal experience, and like that's just not going to hack it when it comes to this kind of show, right? Because it's like, I can't experience that. The 10 things, like, that's going to be harder to get across for me. And it felt like there was a lot more there that had this been an hour ago, we could have perhaps unpacked. But I think we'd reached a point here where we've been going for a while. Yeah, do you have closing thoughts on that?
My closing thoughts, I think actually we probably could have cut that call in at least in half, because really the crux of it was always going to be our answer for I don't know is never going to be therefore God or therefore metaphysical or therefore whatever.
Yeah.
Like that's ultimately the circle that we were dancing this whole time. So
Well, and I think the pyramid thing, for me, the pyramid thing was very revealing, right? Like, I think we probably could have cut it after that, because I think that kind of uncovered the fundamental difference in how we're coming at this. And like, I just don't know that that's a crossable boundary in conversations like these, in call-in shows like these. Like, I've had a few over my time here on the line where you reach a point where you're like, okay, we're in an impasse here, and we've been in an impasse for a while. Like, so, thanks for calling in and everything, but like, I don't think we're going to make things any more clear for either party.
Yeah. I mean, he really hung in there, though. So
he hung in there for sure.
For that.
He was a good sport.
He certainly was. There are some people in the chat, Oriel, if you're still listening, that think you should talk to Matt. I think that would be a scary experience for all, so maybe not. But I think you could. Actually, no, Oriel's really nice, and Matt gets spicy when people are rude. So actually, I think you would be okay. But
I think Matt, I agree. Matt can be super nice, and I think that it would be respectful. I think where things would probably deteriorate is more towards where we were at in the middle of that conversation.
Yeah.
So I don't think Matt has a lot of patience for the I don't know, therefore God kind of thing. There's not really anything to dig at, and to his credit, I guess, or not to his credit, I guess in his favor, I'll say, it's hard for someone like Matt who's been doing this for so long to get any deeper with that talk. Like, you're not going to go anywhere with that. You're hitting bedrock fast.
Yeah. No, you're so right. All right, let's get to some super chats. Actually, I want to read a super chat from Ian Roche from last week that we missed. So I have it on my phone. I have a screenshot of it. Yeah, so I'm going to read it now. So this one was £5 from Ian. Note for Alyssa, ask Erika Gibbons next week. In Scottish, think Shrek. Ugh, I'm not. Congratulations, Tay Monkey. Do get to buy a new hat. # not sorry. I don't know.
What in the
They always
hell
want me to
was
talk in
that?
accents. They always want me to talk in accents, and it never goes well. And at a certain point, at a certain time of the night, I'm not playing anymore.
Who super chatted this?
And I'm like, I won't do it. Ian Roche, who I really love in the chat. Anyway.
Yeah, it's time for my annual favorite part of the show, which is getting angry at chat for being unreasonable and making my night bad. This is what they love to do. It's their favorite thing. They love it.
Yep, they love it. All right, $5
I never get to do accents on this show. Someone asked me to do my Marge. My Marge has gotten really good. So someone asked me to do. Someone super chat in and say, "Hey, Gutsick Gibbon,
okay,
do your Marge."
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Okay, sorry, read it. Well, Kitty, look at the cat. Wow, the profile picture is a little kitty.
That's very cute. $5 from Joshua Everett. Hello to two of my favorite humans and chat too. Hello.
Cute.
That's nice.
I love that PFP. That PFP was so sweet.
It was really cute.
$5 from Bryce Barnett. Oh, do we do the thing where we switch? Do you do that here too? Normally I do the thing where we... Okay, just making sure I didn't want to step on your toes. Okay, $5 from Bryce Barnett. When it grows bright, the particles start to marvel, having made it through the night. Never they ponder whether electric calming, if you look at it right. Erika's the best bandicoot. Thank you, Bryce. Wonderful. You need to add the parts where it reverses entirely and all of the bizarre synth sounds to really actually just super chat the whole song, just beginning to end with including the part where it goes backwards first.
Oh my god, that was really funny. It was really cute to hear you start to read it and then go, oh, and then start again and sing it.
I know what this is.
Hold on. Oh my gosh. $5 from Joshua Everett. I'm in my 40s now, but proper hydration, better nutrition, and daily activity makes a miraculous difference to how I felt in my 30s. I know that's why I've started to like take it more seriously. Because I cannot behave like I am in my 20s any longer. I have to be like healthy and balanced. So I know you're right, and I'm gonna do it. I just don't want to.
The era of the multivitamin is absolutely brutal, and I know it's not good for my teeth. I know my dentist is getting mad because those gummies, the multivitamin gummies, are so sticky, and like I eat a lot of sticky candies, but they get deep into the grooves of your teeth, I don't know that that's going to be good for. I mean, I hated the Flintstones ones, but I don't know that these are an improvement. Yeah. Okay. What's the bandicoot thing?
Okay, so in the beginning, I think of one of the shows, and I think it was just a show we were doing with Promise. Like, I think it was just Promise and I was saying how my friends and I did one of those. It was like a trend on TikTok for a while, and it was like, hear me out. And you give your like weird, unreasonable crush.
I know hear me out. I know the hear me out cakes. I know the hear me out in general. I'm familiar.
Yes.
And did you say
we were doing that?
Bandicoot?
I said Crash Bandicoot, and now it's because like they will not. Chat will not let it go.
What is it about Crash? Oh my god, what is it about Crash? Is he just spunky? You just kind of like how like edgy he is?
Yeah, like I think he's just like edgy, and he's like trying to save his sister, which is nice. And like he's cool. He's like has a cool outfit. It's sort of like skater vibes. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
but
he's
yes.
Trying to get that
now,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You know, I like how his body's a weird triangle. You know, what are you gonna do? It just does something. I can't explain it.
Is it weird that kind of makes sense to me? Like I understand. I get where you're coming from, and I also see how you would like Crash. I do see how you would like Crash. Yeah, there are some. I've met some Spyro girlies. I've met some Sly Cooper girls.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think who else. Yeah, you don't see very many Banjo-Kazooie. I think it's because it's a package deal. $10 from the Plague Birdman. Hey, Erika, how did humans evolve to have reason? If evolution selects for survival, not necessarily truth, how can we trust our mental facilities? Can we have any confidence in our reasoning and logic? Yes, I think so, because reasoning in the sense of being objectively true is what would have been selectively advantageous in the first place. Suspecting that there is maybe like if you're a Russell, suspecting that may be a lion is going to favor those who react to that. And on the odd occasion that it's true, it's going to really select for it. So I would say yes. Now, you're going to run into some trouble once you get into sociality, because sociality makes animals do weird things, and humans are included in that as well. And humans are also bizarre in that we've kind of taken theory of mind to the next level. So like our ability to empathize with one another is great selectively, because it means we can schmooze and woo each other and form coalitions and allyships with one another and, make our social groups more successful. But at the same time, the unintended consequences of empathy and of theory of mind means that we tend to anthropomorphize the world around us, and that can lead to erroneous conclusions. So I don't think that it's the reasoning that's flawed. I think that the reasoning can be flawed if all the information isn't there. So I would say yes, you can absolutely trust your ability to reason, because if you couldn't, those individuals are going to be dead. There would be no selective advantage to that, at least not in the beginning, and that's the most important part.
Love it. $10 from Stina. How do you guys confront trolls in real life? My atheist group date got crashed when a rando was set on debating my husband the whole time. So gross. I don't crash your church brunch. I don't think anyone has ever really tried to like troll me in real life, but I think the easiest way to shut that down is to just say, I'm not open to your feedback at this time. I am not open to this conversation. And so this conversation is over. And if you want to have this conversation, you can do it somewhere else, but I'm not open to having it. And just ignore them. And then they look like fucking weirdos, because they are. And, whatever. If they wanted to debate you, they could also like take down your email or whatever and schedule a time and debate it if they really wanted to. But like, no. You get to just say, I'm not open to this conversation. Thank you so much.
Cute kitty profile picture. Love that. I'll also add that I'm not a good person to ask for this because I like to fight with people. I really enjoy getting into arguments. But that being said, honestly, what they want is to debate you and ruin your time. So if you want to have a good time and then also get back at them, the best thing to do is to probably just be like, we're going to go somewhere else. See you later. And then bail and leave their asses in the dust. Don't let them get the satisfaction. Or call the cops, but they probably won't do anything.
Yeah.
We got $9.99 from I Am the Cheese. Daniel should be careful talking about the history of cheeses because a lot of extra biblical writing from the 1st and 2nd century by non-Christians are very skeptical of the Talmud, Tacitus, etc. I mean, I am aware that there is a conversation like going on about this. I don't know the details because I'm not a biblical scholar.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't even care that much, like, because the whole purpose of him is the divinity portion of it. Like, if he was just a regular guy, it doesn't really matter whether he existed.
That's exactly it. And, like, he can also have just, like, I don't think the historicity of Jesus has very much of an impact at all on the position of agnosticism or atheism or even other religions like non-Christian or non-Christ-based religions, because if he was a real guy, like that's fine. Like, there are a lot of real guys from the Bible that existed. The question is the divinity aspect, as we're saying. That's what we're all arguing about.
Him being a historical figure it just supports my earlier theory that he's essentially Chris Angel mind freak with better PR.
Oh my god. That just makes me...
What can we do?
Dude, that would be so cool. I love that.
Right? He was just an incredible sleight of hand. And that's all that it was.
That. To be fair, that is actually worthy of a following because that's impressive. Being able to do Chris Angel level stunts during that time period is pretty impressive.
Right. Why did people not look at Chris Angel and like, why did he not have a cult? Like he could have had a cult.
Wait, is Chris Angel dead?
Is he dead?
No, you said had. You said past tense.
Oh. Meaning like he's not like okay. He's not like front and center. I thought you saw it in the chat. I was like, where is it? Also,
is he dead? When did he die?
Also, I've literally I don't know why in this moment I care so much about Chris Angel being alive. I need to confirm. Okay. 10 Canadian dollars from Quantum Chaos. Elvis Presley died in 1977. We have books written by people who know for a fact spoke to him and his mother, but we still don't know whether or not he liked bacon and peanut butter on his banana. He liked his peanut butter banana sandwich. Liked bacon on his... Okay, you know.
Yeah, and then there's also the thing where it's like, this is not saying that it's not divine or that it didn't happen, but there sure are a lot of mass hallucinations that most people here in the United States who are Protestant Christians would say are BS. Mm-hmm. Like, there are a lot of visions and apparitions of Mary in places of the world and in villages of the world where hundreds of people sometimes claim to see Mary as an apparition, either in the sky or somewhere else, or there's a healing spring or whatever. And I feel like a lot of the Protestants who come on the show have no problem being like, well, that's clearly BS because Mary can't have that kind of power because of woman, first of all, but second of all, because they're Protestants. And truly in that order, perhaps. But it's like, you don't get to pick and choose, right? Either either these mass sightings are compelling and they're almost always compelling, or they're not. So we kind of have to be, I don't know, you have to be consistent, I think, when you're weighing the evidence, to me.
Yeah, agreed.
$9.99 from I Am the Cheese. How do the claims about women make the Bible true or reliable? By that argument, the cult of Aphrodite or Athena are even more worthy to believe. I'm sick of men making this condescending argument. It always feels like they're throwing me a bone too. Like that's kind of what it's like. Can you believe how good? The same thing goes for the marrying your rapist kind of stuff in the Old Testament, where they're like, "Can you believe this was actually progressive at the time?" No. I'm really sorry, but there's not a point in time ever where forcing a woman to marry her rapist is progressive. I don't care about the details. I don't care what you have to say about it. That's full stop. That is not a progressive position to have. The progressive position to have is to treat women like people who are their own entities and are allowed to make their own decisions. And you would certainly think that, especially given the version of God that we see in the New Testament, that they would have caught on to that a little bit more in the Old Testament, if we're talking about the same guy here, but I digress.
Yeah. Well, and also there are like alleged books written by Mary Magdalene, and this was like a whole thing. I don't know if it ended up being conspiracy theory. It might have been, but like the book has been changed so many times that I'm sure at many times throughout the book's history, there are other pieces of the story about women that have been changed and altered to fit whatever narrative the church wanted to portray at that time anyway. So like, for sure, whatever.
Well, I mean, there's interpretations that exist out there that argue that, Mary wasn't a virgin and wasn't prophesied to be a virgin, that she's actually a young maiden, but then that messes with the Catholics. And then some of the Catholics will accept that, there are followers of Jesus who were women who had a lot of power and whatever in the later versions in some of the later books of the New Testament. I don't know the details, but then she gets changed to a he in certain versions of the Protestant text, if memory serves. But like, I don't know. It's just interesting. Like women get the raw end of the deal every time on this, it seems.
Yeah.
Surprising very few women, I will say.
Right. To the surprise of no women.
No, but, oh my God, this cat. Look at that. That looks like my cat. Oh my God, my cat from my parents' house. Oh, he's so handsome. I love a long hair black cat. That's my favorite kind of cat.
He's very fluffy. 5 pounds from Jessica Doodoo McFuckface.
Yeah,
what?
That makes sense. That tracks. That tracks.
What's big and brown and behind the wall? Humpty's dump. What's the definition of a surprise? A fart with a lump in it. Hashtag Erika for poop puns. Hashtag Espeon sucks. Do you know about the Espeon thing?
No, I don't know about the Espeon thing, but can I just say, being heckled about Crash Bandicoot being your your
hear me out?
Not a crush. Yeah, your hear me out cake. That is, I promise you don't suffer like I suffer. You don't suffer. No one on this show suffers like I suffer. I get these every single time, dozens of them. It's the same joke. One range of like 3 concepts: diarrhea, regular poop, or constipation. Those are the 3 kinds of jokes. And they all, Jessica's particularly bad about this, hides multiple of them in the same super chat. and just, I think they've discovered this, and I think this has been an organic thing. Many of these PFPs, especially the pun ones, have adorable kitties or very cute dogs or other adorable animals in their profile pictures, because it makes me hate the person less, because it softens the blow for me, because I'm like, well, they have an animal, so I can't kill them. Who would feed the animal?
Right.
$5 from a secular felinist. I did a theatrical performance on puns. It was a play on words. You didn't think you'd escape punishment. No, I didn't think that. I never think that it's going to be a good thing. In fact, at one point I saw someone in the chat who was like, there's not that many puns this time. And I was like, could it be a brief respite? But I never thought there would be none. There's always some. Always.
Yeah. Nobody suffers like I suffer. That was so funny. $4.99 from I Am the Cheese. All the famous stories about women in Gospels are how they submit and serve men, including a clearly male God, the Father. Right.
What about Asherah too? I mean, I don't know. There's some interesting stuff about early Hebrews where it's like, the discussion about God's wife, how it used to be more of a pantheon, monolatrous thing, and it's like, yeah, I wonder why she got the boot. Interesting.
Right. Interesting.
And it's not just, it's like, it's the Holy Trinity's 3 dudes, it's God the Son and the Holy Spirit. We're over 3
slots. Right.
It's
over 3. They had 3 slots and they didn't want to give us 1.
They didn't want to give us 1. They couldn't even give us the Holy Ghost. They couldn't even give us the ghost one.
The one that's not really even there. That's crazy.
They don't even give us the lowest one on the totem pole. $9.99 from Rinku. Erika, I wanted to say thank you for including Obama soda in a recent video. I hadn't heard it before and I haven't stopped laughing since. Your meme lordship is surpassed only by your science ability. Rinku, I'm so glad you said that, because that one actually makes me laugh a lot too. And I've been waiting for an opportunity to slip it in somewhere because it's
What
just
is
so
a
stupid.
bomb soda?
It is this borderline surreal meme. It's very stupid, but it's got Trump and they're playing like the sad Undertale music in the background, and he's like Obama, and then it pans over to Biden, and he's like soda, and it's like badass music. I think the core point is to be like Trump bad, Biden funny.
Okay.
Which is true, but I thought it's very dumb, but it made me laugh, so I put it in a video. And thank you for the compliments on the memes. They all come fresh, grown, hand-picked by me, your local grocer, out of my Instagram reels.
I love it. $50 from Shay S. Thank you so much. That's so generous. My coworker thinks that primates, chimpanzees specifically, are a good example of why a male-dominated society will always be better for humans. Erika, what can I say to that to prove this guy wrong?
Hopefully everybody in the chat already knows what I'm going to say here. And this is a $50 very generous super chat, so I'm going to tell you quite a bit here. Humans are most closely related to chimpanzees, and chimpanzees most closely related to humans, with a single exception, and that's the third part of this triad, which is bonobos. Humans are equally closely related to chimps and bonobos, and they used to both just be lumped under the single umbrella of chimpanzee, but now we know that they're actually a separate species and that humans share some DNA with bonobos that we don't share with chimps. And we also share some DNA with chimps that we don't share with bonobos because we share a very recent common ancestor. And there was interbreeding along that lineage for several million years before we finally fully, good and solidly split from one another. So what this means is that the bonobo is an equal model representative of a potential human ancestor as a chimpanzee is, socially speaking. On using sexual dimorphism as our proxy here for why we might look something similar to a chimp. Here's the problem for your coworker. While chimpanzees are fairly violent and patriarchal, they have an alpha male and most males are dominant to most females, bonobos are the polar opposite. They have an alpha female and most females are dominant to most males. The way that females manage to lord power over males and get what they want, and when I say get what they want, I mean they have feeding priority, they have mating priority, they will quite literally beat males up who try to mess with them or coerce them into sex, which is something that you do see in chimps. Although, interestingly, rape is essentially non-existent in both of these species. And the reason is probably because you shouldn't try to rape a chimp. A chimp will kill you. And that goes for a male chimpanzee just as much as it goes for, hopefully, a male human. But the way that these females do it is that they form these coalitions. The females are ranked higher than the males because they use group power. They use closely related bonds between one another to ensure that as a group, they maintain their rank, right? This is something that female chimps haven't figured out, but female bonobos have. They're separated by one river. So how did these two totally disparate, totally opposing and yet so closely related social systems and animals end up the way that they are? Right? Chimpanzees, they'll fight with violence. Bonobos will fight with violence a lot too, but bonobos are also highly sexual. They're some of the only apes that we know of that will have sex face to face other than humans. And they also mouth kiss, which is something that we don't see in any other animals other than humans, which is super interesting. They're known for being some of the gayer of the primates, humans excluded. I mean, they have sex in any which way. So we've got this interesting trichotomy here of chimpanzees, which are patriarchal and violent, bonobos, which are matriarchal and sexual, and humans, which are a solid mixture of the two. So what you can say to your friend is you can say, why exactly do we think a male-dominated society is what's natural for humans when our other closest living relatives couldn't be less male-dominated? In fact, it's actually considered matriarchal, as the term goes. I'll add, too, that they say primates generally. That's also just not true for primates generally. Other primates have matriarchal societies. We see it a lot in lemurs. We see female dominance in calatrichids, so marmosets and tamarins. We sometimes see it in hylobatids, although usually the male and female are the same rank, so they're co-dominant with one another. We see groups of females using female power and natural lines to get what they want in all sorts of animals like baboons and like mandrills and geladas and vervet monkeys and guinins. We see it in all sorts of different platyrrhines, from members of Capuchus or Cebus, the capuchin monkeys, Saguinus, the squirrel monkeys, and howler monkeys. There is basically one primate where females actually really do get the raw end of the stick, and that would be Hamadryas baboons. And the reason why they get the raw end of the stick in that, or the short end of the stick, the raw end of the deal, is because males will prevent females from forming close relationships with other females. So they can't team up against the males that are harassing them or coercing them or whatever. The moral of the story for women out there: have close female friends and back each other up, right? Stick together. That's how you do it. And that's also why abusers oftentimes will try to isolate people, not just women, and not just women from other women, but in general. Because if you can get somebody away from their support system, whatever that looks like, you can manipulate them.
That was an insane answer.
It was a $50 question. It deserved it.
It was great. It was great. Also, love that bonobos kiss on the mouth. Love that they're a little gay. Fun.
They're super gay and they kiss on the mouth all the time. It's actually my buddy researched
really
bonobos
cute.
in the DRC for a while, and she said they are. I asked her when she came back. I said this on the show before, but I asked her when she came back. I was like, dude, are they as gay as people say? And she was like, they're literally gayer. And I was like, that's crazy.
I love it. So fun. $5 from Alyssa. Erika, I just started watching your most recent video on James' tour. I'm looking forward to finishing it during work tomorrow. Great stuff. I love when people watch things during work and they tell me. I'm like, no, exactly.
I love that. I'm glad to be a source of entertainment. I've been told by many people that my videos are long enough that they can keep you occupied while you're driving or doing laundry or doing work, and I'm glad to have found my niche. Please listen to me ramble for hours. It's my dream job. $5.99 from Thrumbo. Why don't people with foot fetishes ever win anything? They enjoy the taste of defeat. That's
Wait,
disgusting.
why don't people ever win anything? Ew. Yeah,
that's so gross.
I didn't like that.
Not the foot fetish, the pun.
No, the defeat.
Answers in genetics with a beautiful cranium as their PFP. Erika, I was visiting the Osteology Museum in Oklahoma City. It was very cool, but they'd taken down their human evolution display. There was only a Gibbon skeleton. Other than that, it's a great museum. Did they take it down because it's Oklahoma, or did they take it down because they're renovating it? Because both of those sound like possible answers. But I'm glad you saw Gibbon skeletons because they're weird and very cool.
$5 from John Paul. I've been trying to eat more fruits and vegetables. I know Alyssa likes bell peppers. I was wondering if you have any snack or recipe recommendations. That's really funny. I do like bell peppers. I don't know. I try to just any fruit or vegetables I try to cut ahead of time because the likelihood of me eating it when I'm really hungry, if I have to cut it, is low. So if it's already cut, then that helps. And I also like I've also gotten into a very quick bean salad because it's so easy. So you just throw a bunch of whatever beans you have, vinegar, oil, or you can even do salad dressing, season and literally any seasonings you want, any veggies that you have that you don't know what to do with, throw in a bean salad. It's just so easy. And then there's some protein in there and lots of fiber, which is really good for you. So you could try that too. I love a sauce or a dip. I love a dip. So if I feel like I want to have a fruit or a vegetable, but I want something that's a little, then I'll make a dip. And sometimes it's depends on what I have in the fridge. Sometimes it's Greek yogurt based. Sometimes recently I used ketchup to make barbecue sauce, and it's so much tastier than regular barbecue sauce. So
do you like hummus?
I love a hummus.
I love a hummus. Any kind. I like the red pepper hummus. I like the everything bagel hummus. I like the pine nut hummus. More than anything, I like a homemade hummus from one of my local restaurants. But in a pinch, I will eat any kind of hummus that is available.
There's a hummus that has an olive tapenade on it.
Oh my God. I know the hummus you're talking about. Love that.
I love that until yeah. No, it's so good. So good.
And the worst part is hummus feels like it's healthy, so you can get away with eating a lot of it. And then you're like, is it actually that healthy? It's not healthy when I'm eating an entire tub of hummus with one bell pepper.
Right, exactly. When I start eating it with a spoon, maybe we need to take a step back.
We got $5 from John Paul. Also, random thought I'd share. My ultra-Catholic MAGA parents never let me get the HPV vaccine. I finally got my first dose yesterday at 18. Congratulations. I'm really glad you did that. And I'm sorry that you were prevented from doing that for so long. Get your HPV vaccine, ladies and gents. Yeah. It's good for and everybody in between. It's good for you regardless of who you are or what your body is.
Yes. $10 from Heathen for Daniel on women at the tomb. Women were the ones who wrapped and spiced the bodies. If you want a believable story, you mix reality into the story. It's logical women would be at the tomb first. Tea.
I didn't know that. I did not
I didn't know that either.
Spiced. That sounds like a rough gig. I would not want to deal with the bodies. 1999 from Answers in Genetics. A quick addition to my last super chat. I purchased a very cool replica of the Turkana Boy skull at the museum. It was priced, so I probably shouldn't be spending more money here, but I love supporting my favorite creators. Oh my god.
You're so nice.
So I purchased a cool Turkana. I hope you're planning on keeping the Turkana Boy skull. I hope you're not planning on giving that. I hope is the implication here that you got it for me? I hope you didn't. You should keep it because that thing is amazing. And I have, just as me bragging for a minute, I've actually gotten to work with the real Turkana skull, the real Turkana Boy cranium, because it's housed at the National Museums of Kenya. It's really, really cool. Is that the Tattersall beak reconstruction that you have? I think that is. Well, maybe not. No. I might have your skull right there on my shelf back here. That might be the Tattersall beak reconstruction, the picture, your PFP.
That's so fun. That's so cool.
Awesome, though.
$4.99 from Hard Work. Thank you both for being awesome. Thank you for being awesome.
Thank you for being awesome. We got $5 from Ancome Jane Brents. Have y'all heard the same shitty argument so many times that you get deja vu when you hear them in the future? I don't like this one because it's a pun and it's about shit, but I also don't like it because I didn't realize that until I got to the part, the deja vu part. And unfortunately, from Jane Brent, there's no cat in the profile picture, which means you've been sentenced to death by me coming to your house and throwing a bunch of monkeys on you that will maul you to death. Yeah. And little monkeys, so it'll take forever.
Oh my god. $5 from Monkey a Typewriter. Question for Erika. Wondering if you had any thoughts on Dragon Man's skull being announced as Denisoviet. I don't know what that means. 23andMe says I'm very Neanderthalish.
Congratulations on your Neanderthalensis genes. That's wonderful. Yes, I do have thoughts on the Dragon Man assignment. I'm in the middle of making a video on it, which is annoying, not because, I mean, the discovery is incredible, but it's annoying because it's like I had videos on the backlog, like set up to release, and then it's like, okay, I got to shift those and then put something new in here because I got to talk about this now. If you will recall, Gutsick Gibbon listeners may recall that I have been saying since that stupid Harbin skull was announced that it's only a matter of time before they test the proteins on that thing or get some DNA from the tooth, because I think there's only one maxillary molar associated with it, and find out whether it's Denisovans or not. Because if you will also recall, the phylogenetic analysis of all of those Eastern Asian hominids is an absolute mess because they're all interbreeding with each other. And I very much have thoughts on it. Obviously, my thoughts are mostly passed through the smell check of Chris Stringer's opinion, since he's the one who's been doing a lot of work on this. But I think it's very, very cool, and I suspect that Homo longi may be here to stay as the official nomenclature for Denisovans, which is pretty badass because Homo longi means dragon man, and that's just really cool.
$5 from Alyssa. Oh, I don't know if this, I think this is actually you.
Oh, $5 from Alyssa. I sometimes wish I could live in ignorant bliss like Oriel. Then I remember there are real world issues that require my attendance, like your beautiful turtle that I can see, or tortoise that I can see in your PFP.
That is a cute tortoise. $4.99 from Hannah Hodgins. You ladies, I cannot thank you enough. You guys and all the other amazing ladies on Chewed Gum have helped free me from the shackles of purity culture. Yay! We love you.
Let's go. Let's fucking go.
Let's
$10
fucking
from
go.
Bobby Kennison. When I mentioned Goodall, she's on my shirt right now. She said, "How do you do?" And I said, "It's all good, Goodall." And she walked away frowning. Isabel Binky was there. She said, "You really boned that interaction." Here's my thing on this: if this is an actual thing that happened to you, that is cool and epic. And if it is not, you actually get extra negative points for bringing Jane, Dr. Goodall, into this mess, into your pun, into your hideous crime here on the internet. The internet forever, you know. No one forgets. Least of all me.
Oh my god. $10 from Mr. Boricua 10. The Gibbons book list / show and tell showed an animated, excited super nerd with chaos of clutter as she's giving info and teaching us all. Stay curious and keep learning new things.
Is that me? Is that about me? If it is, then I'm happy to apply. Yes, that's what I try to do. That's my goal. That's what I try to do for you guys. I try to force you into enjoying it.
I love it.
$5 Canadian from Quantum Chaos. Please, I'm begging you, can someone save me from Oriel's call? Yeah, I saw a lot of people who were saying, there were a lot of you hate you chatters who were saying things like, infinity is real, it is this call, when we were wondering about infinity. And I wanted to comment on it then, but I was actually trying to figure out, truly I got a little stun locked there, because I was like, wait, is infinity real? And then I asked chat, and you guys were no help. You were all disagreeing.
Yeah, and I didn't want him to be so upset by the chat that he didn't want to like continue what he was saying either. But also
the thing about chats though is that, and this has happened to me, it's like if you go into an area where like you're taking an opinion that's opposite the hosts, and it is a beloved channel with beloved hosts, and you're disagreeing with them, the chat is going to be mean to you. Like that's part of it. It's just no one in this chat means Oriel any ill will. I don't believe that that's true, but they will, needle him a little bit, probably.
Yeah.
$5 from
$5 from President Starscream. I am once again abusing my super chat privileges to make one of our wonderful hosts say, Coronation Starscream? This is a bad comedy. Rip oh my god, hello? Leonard Nimoy. Y'all, it's past my bedtime. Oh my god. I don't know what that means. I'll be honest. I don't know what we're talking about.
No, sometimes I stumble over my words so much that I'm worried that I've been like struck by lightning, like some kind of invisible force like act like, or that my programming is shut down. I'm like, did I just did my universes just diverge? Like, did I just fucking die? Like, what happened?
No, I astral projected and I don't know where I am anymore. I took a risk. I had chamomile tea before. Why did I do that?
Oh, I was that's sleepy juice. That is straight up sleepy juice. I
know. It was such a rookie move.
That knocks me out. $10 from Tatsy. Yeah, we're not the team. Everybody in the chat say hey yay. Much appreciated, Alyssa and Erika. It's our pleasure.
Whoop, whoop.
We love it.
$10 from ZM. GG, I don't know what GG is. How can someone... Oh, you. No. GG. I was thinking of... Oh, yeah, that is you.
Yeah, that's like Gibbon. Yeah. Or it's get good. I don't know. Sometimes it depends.
How can someone tell if they're understanding something because it is intuitive to that person or because they are actually understanding and the facts/conclusions match?
It's really hard. and it's actually hard if you're the person in question or if you're talking to somebody and you're trying to figure out if they actually understand it or not. It's actually, you can be a little rhetorically tricky sometimes. I will let you into my debate bro mind palace on one of my tactics. Sometimes when I'm talking to somebody who like doubts evolution or something, I try to find like common ground on something that I know we agree with and compliment them on their understanding and acceptance of that thing. And then I will move, and that tends to make people more receptive to hearing you out on what you're going to talk about next, or at least more receptive to understanding what it is that you're trying to explain. But you can't be certain, which is annoying. We got $4.99 from Sapphic Bibliophile. Here's the March super chat. Do Erika Arnold voice, do it now. Okay, I'm going to do what's the one that I like to do? I like to do the one where Marge and Homer are sitting in the bed and Bart is outside flying a no, it's his glasses. And she goes, Homer, I'm just worried about Bart. And he goes, yeah, it's probably his glasses. And she goes, no, I just worry that we're smothering him. He goes, yeah, probably misses his old glass. Or no, he goes, and then we get the chair and she goes, that's not what I meant, Homer. Then she goes, it was Marge. I butchered it. I've been working on it. My husband and I have been working on our Marge and Homer impressions for a while.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love it.
Thank you, Second Bibliophile, for giving me the opportunity. Holy! That's yours.
Whoa! $100 Canadian from Ayla Ursus. Are those cats? Those are cats too. Great show. Alyssa and Erika are a great combination. Thank you so much. That is so generous and so kind. And your support is so greatly appreciated.
Oh, and the profile picture is a cat snuggling a dog.
It's really cute.
Oh my god, and
Really
licking its head. That's adorable. 5 pounds from Ian Roche. Sorry, Alyssa. If Jesus was a kid, he was a carpenter before power tools, so Jesus was likely totally buff. He didn't flip that table, he destroyed it. I do like to imagine he's ripped and he comes in and starts carrying the table. Here's what I would like. I would love nothing more than for that Jesus to come down from the heavens and just absolutely tear limb from limb every oligarch in this country personally, because they are mixing church and money. I would love it if that would happen. Save us, Jesus.
Me too.
Save us, Jesus.
Me too. $5 from Jamnik06. Love y'all. Hashtag no pun. Hashtag no poop joke. Hashtag cat profile pictures for the win.
Jamnik knows that they're on thin ice. They know they're on thin ice. 5 pounds from Jessica. Jessica pushes onward regardless. Doo-doo McButt face. I and my kitty are sorry for the poop joke. No, you're not. I know they're shit. Yes, they are. And you put up with a lot of crap. Yes, I do. But I can't help it. It stinks. Yes, it does. Hashtag Espion sucks. Why? Okay, literally, Jessica, what is saving you is the fact that your cat looks like my cat. And I know that that cat is doing its best to keep you from your worst impulses, and you are doing this kind of thing despite that poor cat's urges. Also, why does Espion suck?
So Arden was talking about Espion, and then chat, I think, to just be contrarian, was she was saying that she loves Espion, and they were just telling her that he sucks, or they suck. I don't know what the Espion's pronouns are. And so then they started this whole feud. I don't know.
Oh my god. Oh, I like
And the feud has
Espion.
continued for like months. This is like a months-long feud now.
That's crazy. I can't believe chat has Evolution's takes. Can't we all just get along? Can't we love all of the Evolutions equally?
Oh my god.
$5 from Joshua Everett. Oh, I don't know who it is. I'm reading it. It's $5 from Joshua Everett. Lemur King Julie from Madagascar should have been a queen. Yes, actually. Female ring-tailed lemurs are dominant to male ring-tailed lemurs. So in fact,
Wow.
King Julian would have been begging for the attention of all of the resident females by wafting his stink at them, using stink glands on his hands and then on his tail. The females likely would have rejected him. Typically, lemurs, I don't know if this applies to ring-tailed lemurs, but lemur females wield a lot of power because they're only sexually receptive in some cases for like 1 or 2 days out of the year. So they basically get to be like, if you're not nice to me the entire year, you're not going to get any of it. And I don't think their estrus necessarily always syncs up. So like there's a little bit of wiggle room there, and it's not every species, but it's really interesting. Humans do something similar by concealing our ovulation, so no one actually knows when we're actually receptive. Part of that's just because humans like to have sex all the time, though. $9.99 from Answers in Genetics. They replaced the human evolution display with some lemur skeletons. I do plan on keeping the Turkana boy skull good, and my PFP is Ardipithecus ramidus. You know, I was wondering that, but my Artie is... No, I was just looking at it wrong. I was thinking that it was the Tattersall Deke reconstruction of the Peking skull, just because the colors on the skull that you had looked more similar to mine, but I could totally see the Artie. And I should have known, because that mandibular canine is sticking out like a red flag now. Hopefully they'll bring your human evolution like display back, but I don't know. Maybe I'll send an email to Oklahoma and then ride down there and beat them up.
Give them the business. $5 from Jamnik06. Oriel said that chat was being toxic. Sorry, but the magical thinking he was engaging in is what was really toxic. We just want to believe true things. Yeah, I see your point there too.
Yeah, I don't know. Chat is entitled to have their opinions. The caller is entitled to have their feelings hurt, but they also need to recognize that by coming onto a call and being contrarian with the hosts, chat is going to come in hot. I think that's a pretty reasonable expectation to have. $5 from Queen Calico. Just want to say hi and thank you. Found this channel through Erika. Welcome. Lovely. You'll see me more frequently. Actually, I don't know. I think I release videos and show up here about in tandem with one another. You can see me 50% more. 100%
Love it.
Yes. Yeah, math.
$9.99 from Hannah Hodgins. So Hannah sent the first super chat, and it's the same as this one, but I'll read it again. But she didn't realize we read it, so she thought we missed it, so she sent it again. But it just says, Thank you, ladies, for what you do. You have freed me from the prison of purity culture. Love chewed gum. Thank you again, Hannah. We appreciate your support.
You go, dude. Love it. Thank you. And for the kind words and the cute emojis. $10 from Fuzzy Logic. Monroe PFP sat and watched the whole show until the poop pun started. Clearly, she's more enlightened than the rest of us. I've been saying this for so long, but people's cats are more enlightened. They don't like puns because they are such highly evolved, sophisticated animals that they not highly evolved because everything's the same amount of evolved. They're very derived and cognitively inclined, much more so than their Neanderthal owners. Neanderthals really sophisticated. I should pick something else. $10 from Becky Sparks. Oh wait, this is you.
$10 from Becky Sparks. Erika, I know you hate puns and will therefore avoid them, but what's your stance on dumb jokes? 3 men walked into a bar, the 4th man ducked. Has been my favorite dumb joke since I was a kid. Oh, I get it. That's funny.
Dumb jokes hit a little bit better. I feel like they require a little bit more creativity. They're situational by their nature, so it doesn't feel as forced as puns often do. And also my dad tells dumb jokes, so I'm less hostile towards them immediately. But the Venn diagram of dumb jokes and puns is often it overlaps a lot, so they traipse into dangerous territory sometimes. Thank you, Becky. $5 from Jessica. Doo-doo McButtface. No, Growlithe is the cutest in there for the best. I have 5 arguments. Oh, Growlithe, the Pokemon. I thought your cat's name was Growlithe for a second, and I was like, that's a very interesting name for a cat. I have 5 reason-based arguments that prove it to Arden, but Arden won't take my call. Espeon is poo. That's very interesting. Okay. Now the argument has changed, though, because now I'm seeing that it's not about evolutions. It's not about Espeon being the worst of the evolutions, but it's about Espeon being the cutest Pokemon, period, which is not true. And I will take your side on that. I don't know that I would say.
Who do you think is the cutest?
I don't know. I'm biased, obviously, because I love primates, so I'm probably going to pick an unpopular Pokemon as my favorite. Who would be the cutest Pokemon? Come back to me on this. I'll say before the end of the show, but I need to think. Who's the cutest?
$5 from President Starscream. One more quote to make the host read, because why not? You're either lying, Starscream, or you're stupid. Feel free to use with future callers. Thank you so much. Maybe we will. Oh no, I never want to call a caller stupid.
$5 from the Secular Feelings. The past, the present, and the future all walk into the bar. It was tense. See, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I just said. This is a dumb joke that is also pun-based. Yeah, because Nick wouldn't. Yeah, I know Secular Feelings. I know you're picking up the slack for your criminal in arms.
Criminal in arms.
You do have a cute little kitty.
Yeah. $5 from Jamnik06. A priest, a rabbi, and an atheist walk into a bar. The bartender says, "What? Is this some kind of joke?"
This is a dumb joke, so this passes the sniff test.
Passes the test.
Jimmy, more of this and less of whatever Secular Venus was doing. Oh, wonderful. The Raven 200 has arrived. $5 from the Raven 200. Erika might be an 11-story tall Gibbon kaiju. That's true, but I have a mech suit ready for the Lions pun hater. Why are fish so smart? They swim in school. I love the first half of this super chat. But I think the second half is so bad that it actually retroactively makes me hate the first half too. Be gone from the 200. The cutest Pokemon. Oh shit, I don't know. I don't know who the cutest one is. Okay, this is gonna sound kind of weird, but I've always had a soft spot in my heart for Slowpoke. I really think Slowpoke is adorable, and I have a Slowpoke in my car. For my dash to remind me to go slow, and I really love how dumb and stupid they are. Their vapid look reminds me of a lot of the pets that I've had in real time who are kind of dumb, and I also kind of feel dumb like Slowpoke sometimes, so I really like Slowpoke as a Pokemon. And for the cute factor, for just overall cute factor, I feel like I could pick him up and he would be an absolute dumb baby idiot, and I could just smother him with big fat kisses. So I think he's pretty cute. I do like Slowpoke.
I like that you have him on your car so you remember to drive slow.
Yeah, it was my mom was like telling me that she was worried about me when I first got my license, and she was like, I just wish she'd gotten me something to remind me to go slow. And when I actually did get in a car accident at one point, so I was like, okay, I do need to remind myself to be a little bit more careful. So yeah, he makes me think of her, my little Slowpoke.
I love it. Well, thank you everyone for hanging with us tonight. Thank you, Erika. You're awesome. I love hearing you yap more than anything. Your rants are like the best. And I literally, as we're doing the show, I'm like texting my boyfriend and I'm like, Erika's rants are so good. I can't wait to show him the little clips of them because they're so good.
No, I know what really goes on in the co-host mind. When I'm hosting with somebody, they're all like, they pull out their phone and they text their significant other. They're like, hey, babe, I'm not going to be off till about midnight tonight. Go ahead and eat. Go ahead and go to bed. But we actually, I feel like you're very good about keeping me on task. There are some other hosts that are not as good at keeping me on tasks, and there are some other hosts that enable me exclusively. That's usually. But
you know what? Because we have a later slot. So like some shows where we do them at like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Like I would have the stamina to do them for longer, but like at this point, it's 10 p.m. my time.
Yeah, that's late. Yeah,
I'm sleepy.
Yeah, I don't know. If I can get this is like my special anime powers that it's like I can get like jacked up and excited and not sleepy anymore as long as I'm talking about something or like yapping about something that I want to talk about. Which is to the great misfortune of most people around me, but it is what it is.
No, I love it. Well, on that sleepy note, thank you all so much. Thanks to our crew and our mods and our screeners and our wonderful patrons. Happy Pride. Tune into the rest of the shows. The grind is stopping for me at this time.